So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto had all Dragon Beast God Seal. Part 1. If you guys enjoy this, what if? And if you want to part 2. Comment down below. And let me know before I start, please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends. And check out the description. And check out my playlist. So let's start the video. Chapter 1. Beginning of a prophecy. Outskirts of Konoha, a yellow flash screamed in agony, battling the greatest foe he's ever faced. He knew without a shadow of doubt he would not survive, but in order to ensure his children's future he had no choice. "Ah! Kushina!" cried Minato, as his birthing wife had his hand in a death grip. "Fuck off, Minato. I swear you are never going to lay hand on me again." His wife screamed in rage and agony as the first of her babies started to come out. "The man, Minato, you would have died long ago if you were in her shoes, but not us women, unlike men, we're strong." Buwako told Yondaime, giving him a look of disapproval. Looking back down, she can see a bit of yellow, red and orange. "I can see the head just a little more, Kushina." "Push." She screamed, and as told, Kushina pushed with all her strength, eager to get this hell over with. "Hhhhhh." She screamed one last time before a look of almost pure bliss and relief crossed her face. "Oh, thank Kami-sama, it's over." She almost cried in happiness. Buwako put the baby to one side before she came back to attend Kushina. "Now for the other two." Crack. Went to Minato's hand. "Oh fuck. Minato, you are so dead. How dare you do this to me?" After another few minutes of death threats made in the thorns of pain, Kushina finally gave birth to her 3 beautiful children. Buwako scooped up the children who were wrapped in blankets. Bringing them over to their mother, Minato went up to retrieve his children. Buwako pulled the children away from him. "Oh no you don't, Ka-san's first, you san second." She glared at the Hokage, who only sagged in depression. "Damn right. After what I just fucking went through, I get first dibs." The redhead shouted, glaring at the man that put her through that pain and was formulating a plan to get back at him. But all thoughts of Minato's punishment left her mind for now anyway, as her 3 wonderful babies were given to her. "This one's the oldest," Buwako told her, handing her the one wrapped in an orange blanket. She almost squealed as she saw the yellow hair of the boy's father and opened deep blue eyes looking at her. The boy gurgled happily as his eyes saw his mother for the first time. Kushina touched the boy's cheeks, he grabbed onto it, chewing it a bit as Kushina pulled him closer. When he saw her crimson hair, he grabbed on it, tugging at it slightly. She knew the perfect name for her oldest. "Hello, Naruto-chan." The baby looked at her as if he recognized that was now his name. Buwako handed her the second child. Unlike her brother, she was sleeping peacefully, though she would release a small whine every now and then as she moved, not wanting to wake up. The girl had crimson hair like her mother, but her face was a mixture of both hers and Minato's. Her eyes were sharper than Naruto's, but not by much, and though her face was round there was a slight sharpness to it. Kushina knew that she would become quite the looker when she grew up and that she would have a hell of a job keeping the boys away from her daughter. Akamai named her child, hugging her closer. The girl whined a bit as she started to wake up, but Naruto moved closer, interested in his Minato. He hugged the girl, who calmed down in her Ani-san's arms. Onari-chan's already acting like a big brother. She watched as Naruto curiosity inspected her daughter gently, who was leaning on him as she slept. She looked at Buwako, who handed her last child. "And here's your youngest." She started handling a crying baby. Kushina smiled, trying to calm down her other son. She smiled seeing him look almost an exact replica of his Wani-san. But he shared the crimson hair of her and his Ni-chan. That was flat instead of spiky. She had the perfect name for him. Menma the boy was a lot more timid than his older siblings. He was bawling his eyes out as Kushina rocked him up and down. However, this caused her daughter to whine as she was once again woken up by the turbulence. Naruto solved this problem by reaching out for his Itato, who clung to him and buried himself within his Ani-san, just like his Wani-san was doing. Kushina could only smile at seeing her children huddled together around her oldest in the center. She just knew they were going to be the best of siblings, and that by the looks of it, Naruto will be looking after his Minato and Itato. Minato had the same thoughts as he looked at his wife, holding their children. The peaceful time was interrupted though when "Ahhhhh." Kushina screamed as pain came from the seal, earning a duo of cries and a whimper from Naruto. "Shit, the seal. I forgot about it." Minato cursed as he rushed and put his hands back on trying to repair it before it breaks. Everyone was so lost in the new family coming together for the first time they forgot about the fox sealed in Kushina's gut. "Don't worry, Kushina, I'll have him sealed back in a bit." Minato smiled, a drop of sweat coming down his brow as he struggled. Damn it, the seal almost broke. The Kyuubi could be released any time now. He looked back at his family, seeing Buwako taking the children to safety. With the resolve to protect those precious to him, he doubled his efforts. "Ahhhhh." Turning to the source of the scream, the Yondaime Hokage's heart stopped. Standing over Baiko's body and two of his newborn children was a cloaked man in a yellow mask with a flame pattern on it. In the arms of the intruder was Naruto, a hand hovering over him threateningly as he whimpered and struggled not to cry. "Step away from the Jinchuriki or this child will die in his first minute." "Naruto." Both the blonde boy's parents yelled, their son was in danger. "What are we going to do? We can't hand Kushina over to him, he's surely after the Kyuubi," was Minato's thoughts. "I have no choice but to give myself up, our children's safety comes first." Deciding on her plan of action, Kushina began to speak when a miracle happened. Naruto was struggling in the man's arms, he didn't like this scary man and would much rather be back in the arms of that red-haired woman. But at last no matter how much the newborn struggled he couldn't get free. Living a cross between a glare and pout, Naruto's baby blue eyes focused on the black hole in the man's mask. He didn't know what it was so he did the most obvious thing to do when a baby is curious. He poked his finger in the hole. "Fuck. You little brat." The man cursed, dropping the baby that almost poked his eye out. Naruto was laughing as he watched the man, trying to make his eye stop hurting. The man's watery Sharingan eye looked ahead, only to catch the fuzzy shape of the yellow flash, charging at him with a Rasengan in one hand and his recently held hostage in the other. "Shit." He swore again, struggling through the pain to activate his eye's power. As the Rasengan hit him, Minato watched in shock as the man walked right through him. Stopping before he hit the wall, Minato turned to see the masked villain making his way to his wife. But before he could act and save her, a sizzling sound reached his ears. With a panicked look, Minato looked down at his son in his arms, an active paper bomb attached to the boy's blanket. In the span of a second, Minato's eyes looked over to Kushina and then to his other children still crying on the floor. Damn, not enough time to save them all. Before another second could pass, he disappeared in a flash of yellow, the other two defenseless children safe from the bomb, but all alone with no one to protect them. 10 minutes late, Minato put down Kushina and their other children in the same bed that was currently occupied by Naruto. It was a struggle rescuing them, and the Kyuubi was now on the loss, but he would take care of that soon, though it would require him to make two big sacrifices. "Kushina-chan," he whispered to his weakened wife. "Minamoto-kun, the village. It needs you. Take me with you. And I'll see the fox back inside myself." Kushina breathed out. The Hokage shook his head in refusal. "I'm sorry Kushina, but I can't do that. If you seal the Kyuubi inside of you in the state you're in, you'll die." His wife was angry at his refusal for the best plan they had. Minato stopped his wife. "I already have a plan." He gave a sad look to their children who were now snuggling into their mother. Kushina, seeing his gaze, looked at the man with disapproval and anger. "Minato, you can't. Not our children." She shouted, but she was too weak to stop him as he took their children from her grasp. "I'm sorry Kushina, but it's the only way, don't worry, I'm sure you'll be fine without me." He whispered, a tear in his eye. Kushina reached out with all the strength she could muster, but her husband and children disappeared in a yellow flash. Leaving the soon-to-be grieving widow alone in tears. Minato reappeared near the front lines, biting his thumb and making hand seals. He jumped into the air above the fox and shouted. "No," summoning jutsu, a giant web of seal formulas appeared below him, and in a puff of smoke, the chief toad landed right on top of the fox, restricting its movements. Jumping down in front of the two great beasts. Minato summoned an altar, placing his three children on it. Sandaime looked at the altar. "That's it." "No Minato, you can't." In a flash of speed, the Sandaime was gone. Minato looked at his children for what would be the last time. He's only known them for a few minutes at the most, but he already loved them dearly. The Hokage was burdened with a heavy heart, having to leave his children without a father, but it had to be done to save them and the women he loved. "Naruto, Akamai, Menma, take care of each other and please look after your Kasa-san for me, okay?" He told them tearily, but Naruto was the only one awake. "I'm sorry for what I'm about to do, but remember Toussaint loves you very much, goodbye." There were so many more things he wanted to say, but he didn't have the time. Any second before the fox would break free from Gamabunta's hold. He made the hand signs for the Shikifujin, sealing jutsu. Reaper Death Seal, prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice to protect his home, his village and most importantly his family. But before he could finish and summon the Shinigami, his world went black as something struck him in the back of the head. Hiruzen looked at his successor. "I'm sorry Minato, but it's the duty of the old generation to pave the path for the new." With that thought, he performed the Shikifujin. The large translucent figure emerged behind him, demonic purple skin covered its inhuman body, a white robe draped over it. Its golden eyes looked at the fox in interest. In its mouth was a small tanto, he had white shaggy hair with two blood-red demon horns protruding from his head. As the death god began the ritual to seal the Kyuubi, a small vortex appeared in the sky to approve them. As the death god's hand ripped through Sandaime Hokage's soul and then through his armor, leaving a hole where his stomach was, but no physical wound. Lights came through the vortex, dropping slowly down to the land below them. The Shinigami's translucent hand clung to the Kyuubi, and with a mighty push from Hiruzen the beast's soul was ripped in half. The old man watched as the beast's yin chakra was torn from it and it decreased to half of its former size. The man's eyes landed on the red-headed boy out of the 3 children before him. With a quick apology, he ordered the Shinigami to seal the chakra within the boy. As the soul was sealed away, the lights from the vortex increased in number, lights of different colors congregated to their respective color, forming the shapes of red, silver, green, black and white dragons. Too busy to notice the dying Hokage ordered the god behind him to seal the yang chakra away. He chose the girl that had Kushina red hair before the 8 trigram seal finished forming on the boy to her far right. The rest of the Kyuubi vanished as it was pulled into the girl, a red light swirled around her abdomen before it settled into the 8 trigram seal. Before the Reaper could take his soul, however, the god looked up to see the glowing lights of 5 souls. In accordance with his contract, his hand reached out to claim the souls of deceased dragons as payment for his services. Feeling the Shinigami move against his will, he watched as the hand grabbed the struggling specters of lights that were in the air. Having no idea what the lights were, he ordered the great deity of death to stop, but at last it no longer listened to his commands. Unaware what the lights the Reaper had were, he had no choice but to stop whatever the deity was doing. He looked to the last boy, the one that was spared Kyuubi's burden. "Sorry, I don't know what he's doing, hopefully whatever that light is it won't cause you trouble." Focusing his mind, he formed a hand seal and ordered the death god to seal the light it now held. The deity was grinning sinisterly as it prepared to devour the exceptional souls before him as payment for his summons. But his grin turned into a scowl as his summoner ordered him to seal his prey into the remaining child. Unable to violate the terms of contract that were set upon his summoning, he reluctantly let go of the souls he held and sealed them into the last child. Turning to the one who ruined his meal intent on enjoying devouring the soul of the one who caused him to lose such delicacies. The Sandane watched as the pissed-off death god approached him. Feeling his soul torn asunder, casting his gaze on the child whose seal was now forming. He had no idea what he sealed and only hoped it wouldn't cause the boy pain as he passed to the next world. Mount Mamboku, the millennium-old-toad sage, opened his ancient eyes having dreamt a new prophecy about the child of prophecy. With his gravelly voice, he spoke of what he saw. The new entity will be born on par with the 9. One will be burdened with this new beast that came from others. They will experience great pain and suffering, losing those that should love them most. 2 paths will open for the child of prophecy, born from the blood of your student. If guided by love, the child will become the dragon of salvation that will protect the world in its time of need. If it loses that love, they shall fall to ruin, leading themselves and the world to its end, becoming the dragon of destruction. Their union will bring new hope or despair. If the child loses his light, darkness awaits those who took their beloved away. In a void of darkness rested a cage, within that cage was a rainbow-colored orb. What happened came a somewhat female voice, with what seemed like a mixture of others. "I don't know," replied a metallic voice, like the one before. It sounded like multiple voices were playing in the background as it spoke. "Then, where are we?" came an aged, but almost lighter voice being heard over the multitude of others. Could this be the afterlife? This was another aged voice, but with a slightly deeper tone, being harder than most. "Quite," shouted an almost angered voice that carried power, almost completely overpowering the mixture of voices the others shared. "This is far from what we expected to happen, but this is definitely not a bad thing." The same voice spoke to his companies. "For now, whatever is happening, let's observe. Whatever this cage is, it's keeping us alive somewhat, and I can feel an abundance of some form of energy in the air. For now, let's rest and stabilize our existence." He told his plan of action. All the other voices slightly agreed and went silent as they entered an almost dormant state. Chapter 2. And so, it begins. Minato was fighting off the most powerful enemy up to date. It was invincible. It was the most terrifying thing known to man. The dreaded paperwork. I helped defeat a giant chakra beast of mass destruction, and in the end all I get for it is damn paperwork. Damn you, you knew this would happen. He cursed as he glared at his archenemy, which only got larger by the minute. Oh, come on, I've already pulled all-nighters for 3 days straight. I haven't gotten a chance to even see my family. A small smile appeared, banishing the hopeless situation he was in, his beautiful wife, his lovely children. But then he remembered that his wife was currently pissed at him for his attempted self-sacrifice, and he shivered as the image of his enraged wife came to mind. He quickly picked up the nearest document and began working. Paperwork isn't all bad, by the time it's done Kushina-chan will have calmed down enough not to kill me. Probable. Bang. Coming from the door. "Minato, we have a major problem," shouted a familiar voice. Looking up he saw his sensei Jiraiya. "Jiraiya-sensei, what do I owe the pleasure of? For once you got here before complaints from the hot springs came in." He joked. "I came right here, unfortunately my precious hot springs were destroyed in the attack." He cried in tears before shaking himself straight. "No time for that." He stated the seriousness in his voice caused Minato to listen carefully to his sensei. The great toad sage has had a prophecy and it concerns your children. That caught Minato's attention. What? What do you mean it involves my children? He and his family only just survived by some miracle and now his family is in trouble once more. Calm down Minato, we'll keep them safe. He made a hand sign activating a silencing seal before pulling a piece of paper out of his pocket. Here's the prophecy. The sage began reading line for line what was on his piece of paper. The new entity will be born on par with the 9. One will be burdened with this new beast that came from others. They will experience great pain and suffering, losing those that should love them most. 2 paths will open for the child of prophecy, born from the blood of your student. If guided by love the child will become the dragon of salvation that will protect the world in its time of need. If it loses that love they shall fall to ruin, leading themselves and the world to its end becoming the dragon of destruction. Their union will bring new hope or despair if the child loses his light, darkness awaits those who took their beloved away. Jiraiya looked at Minato, his black eyes gazing into his student's blue orbs. It's hard to decipher, but several things are clear. The child of prophecy is one of your children, they will experience great pain if we don't do something, and they could very well end up dying and dooming the rest of the world along with them. He put the paper down on the desk for Minato to inspect at his leisure. He didn't want to believe in some prophecy, but there was one thing that made it creditable. First, we need to figure out what this new entity is. By the 9 we can be assured that it's referring to the Biju, but for something to be on par with them is almost unbelievable. I wouldn't be so sure of that. Minato commented, catching his sensei's attention. It would make sense if this new entity was another Biju. He told his sensei hesitantly, afraid what this prophecy could mean for his children. What does Minato mean? There were only 9 Biju last time I checked. Jiraiya was still mostly unaware of the whole Biju attack, but was informed of his sensei passing, but he had a duty as Minato's sensei and to the man's children as their godfather to keep them safe. Not anymore. He took a breath. Sandaime Sama split the fox in 2 before sealing it away. There are now 2 Kyubis. He dropped the bombshell and realization hit the sage. That's it. Out of the 9 Biju the Kyuubi possesses the most chakra and strongest healing factor. He may not share the special abilities all the other beasts have, but even only at half strength, is more than a match for any of the other 9, and it came from the other Biju. With it being sealed into one of your children all the conditions for the 2 lines are met. The legendary ninja stated. Jiraiya, are you sure it's accurate? I mean it came from an old toad who is senile. Minato argued, he didn't want to believe the prophecy and he's met the toad sage before and it was obvious the toad was way past his prime. Minato, this was predicated during the Kyuubi's attack, the old toad may be senile, but that hasn't affected his powers. We can't ignore it, especially with what it says about your children. Minato's eyes landed on the next line. They will experience great pain and suffering, losing those that should love them most. But what does that mean? Minato asked and Jiraiya gave him a look of pity. It's obvious who would lose that love him most, it's obvious it means your family. Minato's eyes went wide at that, shock and panic filled his eyes. Calm down kid, we'll stop it no matter what, but first we need to figure out the rest. The next line speaks for itself, it's the ones after we have a problem with. Calming down, Minato looked at the paper seriously, he wouldn't take the chances of losing his family. He read the rest of the prophecy. If guided by love the child will become the dragon of salvation that will protect the world in its time of need. If it loses that love they shall fall to ruin, leading themselves and the world to its end becoming the dragon of destruction. What about those 2 lines, dragons? They're just legends. Minato spoke, dragons didn't make sense they haven't been heard of in thousands of years. Dragons are known widely as deities of destruction or protection, it's most likely a reference to what the child of prophecy could become, we need to make sure that he goes down the right path. Jiraiya stated and Minato agreed. He read the last part. Their union will bring new hope or despair if the child loses their light, darkness awaits those who took their beloved away. That last one is the hardest, it most likely refers to the Kyuubi being bound and controlled by your child or the 2 children fighting together, but if one of them loses this light, which can assume is a person they care deeply, for they will go down the path of revenge and darkness. Jiraiya spoke up, they had all the lines deciphered now, or at least understood it enough to make sure the child of prophecy saves the world. So, what are we going to do? How can we save my family and children? Minato pleaded with his sensei for answers. Only one thing we can do is prepare for them. As soon as they're old enough we'll start training them with the Kyuubi. Do you have any idea which one could be the child of prophecy? The nod of no he received was not what he wanted. Then we'll train both of them and make sure they can fight side by side with one another, as well as make sure they can control the Kyuubi. Minato nodded agreeing with his sensei's plan. He would do anything to save his family. Hashirama was busy recovering, Tsunade was helping, with the children having come to visit and help out, she quickly fell in love with her godchildren and has even decided to stay in the village permanently. She looked at her triplets playing around on the floor. When she found out about the seals, she was terrified of how they would be treated, and although the village was at first skeptical thanks to the help Minato and herself, they quickly came around and were warming up to the twins that held Kyuubi and treating them as the heroes they were for their sacrifice. She giggled as she watched Naruto play with Akamai knocking her over. All of her children held different personalities. Naruto was most like her, always moving and playing around taking the initiative. Akamai was more like Minato. She still played with Naruto, but she was quieter and calmer until something got her hyped up. Menma was quietest and most like Minato, he would play on his own and was a bit shy. It reminded her of when Minato used to watch her from afar and would turn away in embarrassment whenever she got close. However, she didn't need to worry about him being antisocial as Naruto tackled his Itato, gently coaxing him into joining the other two in play. Naru-chan was such a considerate Oni-san, he would always go that extra mile to make sure Menma joined them to play and bring the boy out of his shell a bit. She just knew Naruto would stand by his siblings and protect them. Over 2 years later, the day before the triplets' third birthday, Naruto and his siblings were sitting down on the settee. He sat in between his two siblings. Naruto was excited because tomorrow marked the official start of his ninja training and then he could start on his dream to become Hokage like his dad. As Ka-san and Tu-san came in and sat down, they seemed to have a serious look on their faces. One sat down. Minato gave a heavy sigh. "There's something very important we need to tell you." He waited until he had their undivided attention before continuing. "You all know the story of Sandaime defeating Kyuubi, don't you?" They just nodded. How the Sandaime saved their Tu-sen was one of their favorite bedtime stories. "What I'm about to tell you is how he defeated it." Minato went on to explain how Menma and Akamai had a half of the Kyuubi each inside them. Hashirama had to stop herself from going over and hugging them. Menma was almost in tears now that he was told, thinking that he was the fox. Naruto just calmly listened and then looked at his two siblings who were about to cry. Looking at his Itato, he leaned close and poked Menma's stomach, tickling him and causing the almost crying boy to laugh as Naruto kept doing it. "Ani-san. Stop. That tickles." Menma laughed. "I'm just petting the fox." Naruto grinned before he turned to Akami with an evil grin. Akamai backed away from her Ani-san in fear. "No, Ani-san, don't you dare." Naruto pounced on her and started tickling her too. "Hhh. No. Stop. Menma, Itato, help." Menma latched onto his Ani from behind, tickling him. Soon his Oni-chan joined in and together they defeated their evil Ani. Hashirama and Minato could only join the laughter as the children had their tickle war. Once everyone calmed down, Minato ruffled Naruto's hair affectionately. "Good job, kiddo. Of course, I'm the Ani. I'll always protect my Yamato and Itato." Naruto grinned ear to ear. Both parents knew they could believe in those words, and they both felt a pang of guilt, knowing how much he's been looking forward to tomorrow. "Naruto, we also have something important to tell you." The young boy looked into Yu-san's eyes with excitement, causing the man to grimace somewhat. "You know what day it is tomorrow, right?" he asked and the boy jumped up and loudly exclaimed. "Yep, it's the third anniversary of the defeat of Kyuubi and the festival of the Sandaime Hokage. Festival of the third fire shadow, but more importantly, it's our third birthday and the day we start our ninja training. Just wait, I'm going to be Hokage before you know it." He shouted, grinning from ear to ear. "No way. I'm going to be Hokage, Naruto Ani-san," stated his smooth red-headed look-alike. Menma was smiling at his Ani and the parents watched the sibling rivalry before the talk turned for the worse. Menma, Itato, you always copy Ani-san, don't you?" Giggled by the middle child Akane. Both she and Menma looked up to their Ani-san as their role model. But Menma was the one who tried to emulate him the most, down to his PJs, morning routine and of course his dream. "Menma, Itato, it's so cute seeing you and Ani-san together, you look so alike and act the same." She knew that the main reason Menma was so attached to his Ani was because unlike the two of them, he was the shyest of the children and had a hard time coming out of his shell. "But Ani-san always helps you out." "No, I don't. If anything, he's copying me." The red-haired boy pouted, arms crossed, a slight blush on his face. Seeing Itato's embarrassment, Naruto got a foxy grin. Minato doesn't tease him after all, why wouldn't he want to copy this superstar? He exclaimed, pointing to himself and showing his 3-year-old muscles. There was silence as the younger duo of the triplets looked at their Ani, both picked up the close pillow and threw it at their boasting big brother. Pillow fight. The two siblings once again ganged up on their big brother. Minato giggled at the sight before he clapped both hands together. "Clap. Alright, that's enough," he shouted. The triplets immediately stopped. Nobody moved until one pillow that was still in the air came down on Naruto, who glared at the perpetrator. Minato followed, glaring at his feathered covered wife who snuck her way into the fight when it started. Kushina tried to look innocent, but her husband's glare continued until she pouted and took her spot by his side. Seeing how happy they all were just made it harder for parents. Yes, tomorrow Akamai and Menma will start their training. Hell yeah. Menma shouted excited like his Ani normally would be. But his Wani and Ani-san realized the absence of a certain name. To-san, what about Ani-san, won't he be training with us? Akamai questioned, a frown marrying her pretty face. Naruto looked at his parents in surprise, hurt and betrayal, which felt like a knife to the heart of both his To-san and Ka-san. Yes. About that. You see, we want to make sure Menma and Akamai can control their tenants before you join, we don't want you accidentally getting hurt, right? Minato told them with sadness. His sensei was the one to recommend it, but it didn't make it feel any less wrong. Minato, we need to make sure both Menma and Akamai are strong and work well together. I know it's hard, but I think we should have Naruto left out of the training at first. His sensei stated. What, but why? Minato pleaded, not wanting to push aside his own child. Don't worry, you can get back to him after a year or so once the twins have started getting the hang of the Kyuubi. We need to do this, Minato, to prevent the prophecy, and we don't want either of them hurting Naruto by accident, do we? Menma is slower and has confidence problems, he could end up getting jealous when both his Ani and Wani are ahead of him, and if Naruto and Akane get closer, it could put a bigger strain on their relationship. As the conversation he had with his sensei came to mind and he faced his Musuko's hurt look, he reminded himself that it was all for the greater good. It's only for a year, we'll get back and make it all up to Naruto once the two are up to speed. He told himself, but he was still pushing his oldest away even more. Don't worry, Nari-chan, we'll get back to you next year when the two get up to speed, I promise, and then Uzumaki never goes back on their word. His wife consulted their oldest, with a hug. Naruto looked up and asked, his voice slightly broken. It's to make sure Minato and Itato are okay, right? He asked, eyes sparkling with unshed tears. Yeah, don't worry, once they're up to speed you can join us again. Minato told him, putting a hand on his shoulder. Then I'll do it, next year I'll catch up and be Hokage before you know it. Naruto shouted, faking being strong to protect his siblings. Both his younger siblings gave a small smile. No way, Ani-san, by the time you join I'll already be Hokage. Menma was still copying his beloved Ani. Yeah, you better catch up, training would be boring without our favorite knucklehead to liven things up. Akamai jokes, causing a moan of protest from her brother. Hey. Minato and Kushina could only watch, hoping they made the right choice, they were happy Naruto didn't seem to mind. Or at least as far as they could tell, as the boy put on a brave face for his loved ones. The next day, October 10th, Naruto watched as his godfather ignored him, handing presents filled with ninja equipment to his siblings. But it wasn't just him, everyone gave presents to only his Minato and Itato, all ninja equipment. He watched from afar as Menma and Akamai opened their presents, showing off their new practice kunai and shuriken, as well as their training outfits. He looked at his own presents and sat in a corner all on his own. They were few in number, since most of the family, friends and the village seemed to treat his siblings better than him. But his parents brought a shirt, books and raiment. They were small compared to his siblings' piles of presents, but at least he wasn't completely left out. As his parents brought the birthday cake, a lone tear dripped down his cheeks. He didn't like being excluded, he hated it. The village ignored him in favor of his siblings, treating them like heroes. He now knows why they kept the monstrous Kyuubi at bay since their birth. The boy turned and went to his room, not being able to stand seeing his siblings celebrating and showing off their new training gear. If being excluded was what he had to do to keep his younger siblings safe, then he would do it gladly. After all, he was their Ani-san, the oldest. It was his duty to look after his beloved Minato and Itato, protect them and keep them from harm. After all, we are family, and an Uzumaki always stands by their family. He recited one of the Uzumaki clan's creeds. His Ka-san made sure he and his siblings knew the importance of family. He took that to heart and always made sure his siblings were safe and never showed how much he was truly hurt on the inside. He loved his family more than anything in the world, and that would be his greatest undoing. While the birthday cake was brought out, no one noticed that one of the birthday children wasn't there. They didn't notice his absence as Menma and Akamai blew out the candles. Nor did they notice that the part of the cake with that boy's name was the first to be cut and shared, leaving the cake with the icing that spelled out "Happy Birthday Akamai." Menma, the name of the forgotten child, was just cut off, forgotten for the first time as the rest of the family celebrated. Naruto went straight to sleep, eager to start the new day. Just 1 year and then we can all celebrate together again. Chapter 3. A new friend. Hinata was having a wonderful day. Her mother finally took her to the park to play with other children. She was so looking forward to it. As heiress, she wasn't allowed to play with the other children in the Hyuga compound. It was frowned upon for the heiress to associate with those beneath her. But her mother was finally able to sneak her out to play in the park. She was so excited to play with other children. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Hey freak, get lost. We don't want your wide-eyed freaks playing with us. A 5-year-old boy pushed Hinata to the ground, hurting her. Yeah, your clan thinks you're all high and mighty, but I got news for you, you're not. Another boy shouted, grabbing Hinata by the hair, causing her to cry. "Ha-chan," she cried, hoping her mother would save her. "Aw, would you look at that. The Byakugan monster is calling for her monster Kasan, what a crybaby." He went to punch Hinata, but before he could, a fist came out of nowhere, knocking him back. Blue eyes glared at the three bullies. "Boys shouldn't pick on girls, you big bullies." Hinata looked at her savior to see a boy about her age, bright blonde hair and an orange shirt with a red spiral on the back. "Who do you think you are, you shrimp?" shouted one of the bullies to her savior. "Me? I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, future Hokage," he exclaimed. "Liar, Hokage-sama only has 2 children, and they're both redheads," shouted one of the bullies. Naruto flinched at that. He knew that Izutato and Minato were the most well-known children, but it still hurt. "I am his son," Naruto shouted with pride. Hinata looked at her savior as he shouted. "Oh really? Well then, we'll have to teach you not to lie about our Hokage, get him?" one of the bullies exclaimed. Hinata watched in admiration as the boy who rescued her didn't back down. "Bring it. I'll teach you not to pick on girls." One of the bullies charged, but Naruto weaved under his punch and threw an uppercut to the cheek. The bully staggered back, but Naruto wasn't strong enough to do more. One of the other bullies came and punched Naruto in the face. It looked like he was going to fall, but just before he did, he regained his balance. Naruto ran right at the boy, jumping in the air and counter-attacking with a punch to the face, sending the boy to the ground. Naruto landed on the boy and started punching him repeatedly until he bled. Shocked from getting their asses kicked by a 3-year-old, the 2 remaining bullies watched as their friend got beaten. When they finally came to, they charged and an all-out brawl ensued. Hinata watched in admiration, grimacing at the sight of blood and every hit her savior took. What she was seeing wasn't the sparring matches she was used to, but a straight-up fight where they tried to hurt each other as much as possible. There was no style, no rules, no safety measures, just children trying to kill each other. But she watched mesmerized, her pale lavender eyes focused solely on her savior. He was her age and size, but he was holding his own against the 3 5-year-olds. He was at a disadvantage, he was bruised and bleeding, fighting 3 against 1. But no matter how hard they hit him, he just wouldn't fall. Every time it looked like he was about to fall, he would stop himself by sheer force of will and then launch at his opponent, getting as many hits as he could in. He was like an unstoppable force. No matter how much they hit him, he just kept going back for more. Despite how much pain he was surely in, he didn't stop. He kept protecting her despite the pain, and that meant so much to Hinata. No one has ever gone so far for her before. The bullies were shitting themselves. Sure, they were almost double the boy's age, were bigger and stronger, and had him outnumbered. But no matter how much they hit him, the damn freak wouldn't go down. Every time it looked like they won, the brat would charge at one of them, attacking them wildly until they could get him. He just ignored most of the hits they inflicted and kept attacking. And to the bullies, who were used to beating everyone else easily, having someone that just won't go down was terrifying. "You monster, just stay down already," one of them roared. The fight continued for a few minutes until the bullies started to wear down from Naruto's consent charges. The psychological damage done by the fact that he kept coming and coming, added to their own injuries, caused them to flee in terror from the monster. "He's a monster," they shouted as they fled. Hinata looked at her blonde savior. He looked at her, he was breathing heavily and bruised all over. His blue orbs looked at her, and she felt a warmth spread through as her heart and pulse quickened and she felt all fuzzy inside. "What's happening to me? Ani-san," shouted a duo of voices as 2 redheads showed up. "What happened?" asked a girl with long red hair that went down her back and violet eyes. She wore a purple training outfit with red on the trims and a red spiral on the back. "Hey, are you?" "Alright," stuttered the boy. He looked like an exact replica of the boy who saved her, but his hair was flat and smooth instead of spiky, more like her own. He also had violet eyes, but there was a tint of blue in them, making them look darker. "Itato, Imauto. I'm fine, just a fight." Naruto smiled, his bruised and bloodied face on display. "You don't look fine. Once I got my hands on the ones who did this to my Ani." Akamai went off, causing her 2 brothers to move back. It was scary how she acted so much like their 2-san 1 minute and then became like their Kachan when enraged. Wani-chan. Menma whispered, causing the girl to calm down. "Damn it Naruto Ani-san, what were you thinking about getting into a fight? You haven't started training yet," she admonished me. Naruto just smiled. "Well, I had to save this girl and besides, I won." He laughed. "You won, but what would have happened if you didn't and we didn't make it in time?" she said as she turned her eyes to the young Hyuga. Hinata jumped as violet eyes landed on her. She started to squirm as the other boy looked her way and all eyes were on her. Menma blushed as he caught sight of her. She's so beautiful," he thought in a trance, feeling so embarrassed. Naruto paced his siblings and made his way to the Hyuga. Thump, thump, thump went Hinata's heart as the boy approached her step by step. Thump, 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 it got faster as he got closer. Naruto lowered himself down until sapphire blue met lavender. Hinata felt heat rush to her face as a fuzzy feeling overcame her and she blushed. "Hey, are you alright?" Naruto whispered gently. His voice was so kind, so soothing, that Hinata just got lost in it and could only dumbly nod as she admired the handsome boy in front of her. But he whispered. A hand gently reached out and patted her ruined hair down. Hinata almost let out a hum of approval as she felt the boy's fingers stroke her hair lovingly. "A pretty girl like you shouldn't cry." Hinata blushed, disappointed when his hand left her head. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." He smiled and then pointed to the girl. "And that's my Amato." Hinata followed Naruto's finger like she was in a trance at the boy in front of her every beck and call. Her eyes landed on the red-haired girl, who greeted her with a nod. "I'm Akamai Uzumaki Namikaze." "Sorry about that, Ani-san can be a handful at times." She smiled, Hinata just nodded back, still in her daze. She followed Naruto's hand as it pointed at the boy on instinct. "And that's my Itatomi," he stated, but was cut off as the boy tried to introduce himself, emphasis on tired. "Emmi Menma. Uzumaki. Nanami Kaze." The red-headed boy that looked like a copy of her savior stuttered, madly blushing. He was belittling himself for stuttering and was extremely jealous of his Ani-san for being so close and touching her silky blue hair. Naruto looked back at the girl. "And you?" he asked, his bright blue eyes sparkling. "Hi Hinata Hyuga." Hinata squeaked back, blushing a great shade of red like Menma did before. Naruto just gave her a smile that took her breath away, holding out his hand. "So, would you like to play with us?" Hinata was in pure and utter bliss, plain and simple. Not only did this kind, gentle, wonderful boy save her, but he was offering to let her play with them, which was something she always wanted to do. She took his hand slowly. She basked in how warm and soft it felt and allowed Naruto to pull her up. When Naruto started leading her away, she followed like a lost puppy who just found her new owner. What followed was the best times of her life. Naruto-kun was so kind and caring. He made sure she was involved with everything and he would always smile at her in that special way that got her heart pumping. When she failed, he didn't insult her or tell her to go away. He only encouraged her to do better. Naruto came over to her, causing Hinata to panic. He stepped behind her, taking both of Hinata's hands as she held the ball. "You need to push like this," he whispered in her ear. She could feel the breath go down her neck, giving her a pleasurable shiver. The warmth of his body that she just leaned into as he stood behind her, the feeling of his hands over hers. She loved it. She relished contact with him. She never felt anything so amazing as what she felt when she was around her Naruto-kun. Menma just watched the two as they went on in their own little world as Naruto helps Hinata with how to throw the ball. His eyes blazed green and his teeth clenched, grinding in jealousy. "I wish I was the one." Hinata-chan was all over. For the first time, Menma could say he hated and envied his Ani. The group played all day. Naruto and Hinata seemed to have become really close, smiling so much that you wouldn't guess that they only just met. Menma tried to get as close to Hinata as he could without being too close to his Ani and Akamai just played happily, thankful to have another girl along. When the day finally ended and the sun was setting, painting the sky orange, their playtime was over. "Hinata-chan," called a feminine voice. "Ha-chan." Hinata squealed, leaping into her mother's arms. Her mother just smiled before she realized the state her little angel was in. Her clothes were dirty and her face was smudged with faded tear marks. Her hair was slightly messy, but it looked like it was fixed by someone. "Hinata-chan, what happened?" she asked in concern, lowering herself to her level and inspecting her daughter more. Hinata blushed as she remembered how Naruto-kun proudly protected her from those bullies. Her mother wasn't ignorant and noticed the blush instantly. "Hinata-chan, what have you been up to?" She smiled as she thought about what could make her girl blush like that. Hinata was fidgeting under her mother's gaze. Well, some bullies." At the mention of bullies, an almost lavender flame burned into the Hyuga mother's eyes, causing the girl to almost shout out the last bit. "But Naruto-kun saved me." Hinata covered her mouth, blushing bright red at what she just shouted. "Hinata-chan." Naruto shouted, running to Hinata's aid at her shout. "Are you alright?" he asked, looking around. "Did those bullies come back?" Her mother just smiled as the bruised boy looked around for anyone trying to hurt her daughter. It was obvious by his state that he fought very hard to protect her. "So, you must be Naruto-kun. Hinata-chan told me you saved her from some mean bullies. Thank you so much for saving my daughter." She smiled, causing Naruto to blush as he looked at the women in curiosity. "Oh, how rude of me, I'm Hitomi Hyuga, Hinata's Kasen." She introduced herself. Naruto did the same. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and don't worry, I'll always protect Hinata-chan, that's a promise and I never go back on my word because that's my nindo." he proclaimed, causing Hitomi to laugh. Well, please take care of my daughter. I'm sure she'll be in good hands in the future with you always by her side. She complimented, watching as her daughter squirmed at what she was implying. Yeah, don't worry. I won't let anything happen to Hinata-chan and will always be by her side to protect her. Naruto exclaimed, having no idea what his words were doing to Hinata. Ani-san, it's time to go. Called his punctual Yamato. Okay. He called back. Bye Hinata-chan, I hope we can play again. He said as he left. Bye Naruto-kun, Menma and Akamai. She shouted, getting waves of goodbyes from all of them. Menma was especially happy when she said his name. Hitomi gave her daughter an evil smirk. Suo. My Hinata-chan's got a new boyfriend, make sure you look after him, he's a keeper. Hinata turned bright red as thoughts of her and Naruto-kun becoming a couple in the future come to her mind. She did something which will become a long-time habit of hers. She fainted. Hitomi caught her daughter as she went limp and fell to the ground mumbling Naruto-kun. Yep, he's definitely a keeper. Hitomi remarked before she picked up her daughter and left. Naruto was walking back, a smile on his face as he and his siblings talked about the day and their new friend. However, when they got back, they were not met with a welcome home, or at least Naruto wasn't. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Their mother shouted, scaring the hell out of triplets. They looked up in fear as the red-hot habanero was on a warpath. All the children were shaking in their boots as their mother stopped in front of Naruto. Naruto, what is the meaning of this, she shouted, pointing to 3 adults and children who were beaten up. Naruto recognized them as the bullies that attacked Hinata-chan, and his blue orbs got darker as he glared at the bullies, making them squirm. I was told you beat these 3 boys up, is that true, she asked. Naruto gave a nod, still giving the 3 a glare of hatred. Naruto apologized right now. Kushina demanded. Naruto looked at his Ka-san in surprise. But Ka-chan, he tried to explain, but was cut off. No, buts, young man. You can't just beat up 3 innocent boys. If this was what you would have used it for, it's a good thing you didn't start your training. You need to be more responsible, now apologize. She told the boy, having no idea what her words were doing to her son as she demanded him to apologize, not knowing what really happened. Naruto shook in hurt and anger. His Ka-chan refused to hear him out and she reminded him that he was excluded. But worst of all he could see was Hinata-chan's crying as she screamed for help. No, he whispered. What was that? Kushina questioned, not having heard him. No. I won't apologize when it was their own fault. He shouted, taking everyone aback, rule number 1 in the Uzumaki Namikaze family. Never, ever, make Kushina mad. Then you're grounded. And you can go to bed without dinner tonight. Their Ka-chan roared, not used to being ignored, nor shouted at. Naruto reluctantly made his way to his room, sending a glare to the bullies that promised payback if he ever saw them again. Menma and Akamai really didn't know what was going on and were too scared of their Ka-chan to speak up to their Ani's defense. They weren't there to see the fight, nor what the bullies did to Hinata, even if they knew about it. They watched as their Ka-chan went back to apologizing to the parents. About a month later, December 27, Hinata became an almost unofficial member of the Namikaze family. Kushina loved having her around and visiting her old friend Hitomi. This went double for the kids, and Hinata loved being able to see Naruto every day, who kept his promise of keeping her safe despite the constant telling-offs by his mother. The day was the day Hinata turned 3, and Naruto was looking forward to giving his best friend his gift. But sadly, one thing stopped him from rushing over to see Hinata straight away. Ka-chan, do we need to go, whined Naruto as his Ka-chan put a kimono on him. It was orange and had the Uzumaki crest on the back. Yes Naruto, it's an important event for the village and as the family of the Hokage, we need to attend. His Ka-chan told him, finishing tying his kimono. But it's Hinata-chan's birthday today. He whined again, not wanting to miss the first birthday they had as friends. I know, but we can't miss it. These peace talks are a major event and besides the Hyuga, who requested special permission to miss it for Hinata's birthday and integration as clan heir, everyone has to attend. Her oldest pouted at this. He really didn't want to miss Hinata-chan's birthday and it hurt his mother to see him so down. Tell you what, I'll see about asking Minato if we can leave early to see Hinata-chan, okay? Naruto brightened at this. Really Ka-chan, we can see Hinata-chan after Itato asked with hope, having grown attached to the Hyuga as much as Naruto. Kushina just smiled. Yes, I promise. Alright. Both boys cheered. Akamai giggled, she too was happy to see Hinata, but wasn't as vocal. Alright, let's go. Kushina stated, Menma and Akamai each grabbed one of their Ka-chan's hands, while Naruto took point. It was the standard Uzumaki Namikaze formation. The youngest protected their Ka-chan from the sides, while Naruto protected both his Ka-chan and his siblings from the front. At least that's what they bragged about and made holding their Ka-chan's hands sound cool. A few minutes later, Naruto was standing next to his siblings, father and mother. The citizens of Konoha littered the streets and parted down the middle as a parade came down along with a single carriage. The carriage stopped outside the Hokage tower and out came a man with brown hair and headband with a symbol of a cloud on it. "Greetings, Ambassador of Kumagakure. Konohagakure and the Land of Fire welcome you into our home. May this treaty bring everlasting peace." Minato smiled as he greeted the Kumo ambassador, offering his hand. "Greetings, Hokage-sama." The ambassador bowed. "I too hope these peace talks go well for our countries." He shook Minato's hand, causing more cheering from the crowd behind them. "I see you brought your children." His eyes landed on a pair of red-headed twins, both felt a shiver go up their spines as the man's eyes gazed at them longer than necessary. Naruto moved in front of his Itato and Yamato, earning a silent thank you from both. Naruto gave a small bow. "Greetings Ambassador-sama, I hope you find Konoha to your liking during your stay." Naruto said slowly. He acted polite since he was taught how important it was to show respect as the Hokage's son and his Kachan would give him hell if he didn't. But on the inside, he wanted to beat up the man who was giving his beloved siblings a weird look. "Ah, what a polite young man. I didn't know you had a third child Hokage-sama, your red-headed twins and their beautiful mother are well known in the elemental nations as the last true Uzumaki." He bowed again to Kushina. His eyes stayed on her form too long for Minato's or Naruto's taste. "Yes, well, Naruto here inherited my hair, but that doesn't make him any less Uzumaki. As a matter of fact, he takes after my wife the most." He told them before waving a hand inside. "Now let's continue with the meeting inside, shall we?" "Of course." The ambassador followed Minato and his family in. Several hours later, Naruto and his siblings were mingling with the guests, mostly the other clan heirs. He didn't get along with most of them, besides the Akimichi, Nara and Inyazuka heirs. Izumoto got along with the Yamanaka heir quite fine when she wasn't fangirling over the Uchiha, and Menma seemed to get along with the silent Aburame clan, which both joined Naruto's group after he got the two silent people to join in. The Uchiha heir also joined them and he was cool, though he bragged about his nice and way too much. Now he knows what others go through when his Itato brags about him. It was getting late and the boy couldn't keep his mind off the one clan heir not there, Hinata-chan. He went over to his Kachan, who was smiling as she talked to her friends, the mothers of Konoha's clans. "Ah-chan, can we go and see Hinata-chan now please?" Naruto asked. It was getting late and he wouldn't be able to see her before bedtime if they don't leave now. Looking at her son, who was giving her puppy dog eyes, she gave in. "Okay son, I'll go and ask Toussaint first okay, wait here." Kushina ruffled her son's hair before she went to see her husband. Minato was talking to the ambassador with his sensei Jiraiya next time. "Minato-kun, Naruto wants to go and see Hinata, is it okay if we leave early?" she asked, causing the three men to look at her. The ambassador seemed to give a strange look as he asked. "Leaving so soon Kushina-sama?" Minato was about to give the okay when his sensei put his hand on his shoulder. "Minato, can I talk to you for a sec?" he whispered, leading Minato away while Kushina talked with the ambassador. "What is sensei?" Minato asked, curious why his sensei led him away from the party. "Minato, you can't let Kushina and the twins leave," the Toad Sage said in a hushed voice. "Sensei, I don't understand." Minato inquired, not understanding why his family can't leave early. They only needed to attend in the first place for appearances. "Damn it. Minato, don't you remember what happened to Kushina years ago? We can't risk that happening to the twins. It's better if they stay here and go home with you where they're safe. Kumo's not known for playing fair," he told his student, keeping his voice down. Minato remembered that night well. It was the night he first approached Kushina to save her from becoming Kumo's breeding stock. He also remembered the fear of almost losing her, and it was doubled at the thought of either of his children becoming Kumo's prisoners. "You're right, sensei." The two went back to join the party. "Sorry Kushina-chan, but I think it's best you stay here with me. The party will be over in a few hours," he told his wife. Kushina was going to argue, not wanting to break her promise, but was interrupted. "That's a brilliant idea, Hokage-sama. It's not every day I get to hear about one of the legendary clans in the ninja world like the Uzumaki clan." The ambassador spoke up and since she couldn't be rude and deny him, she was stuck speaking to him for the rest of the night. Another 2 hours later, Naruto waited, but his Kachan never came back and they stayed at the party until it was finished. Finally finished, Naruto pleaded. "We can see Hinata-chan now, can't we?" Kushina looked at her son sadly. It hurt so much knowing she broke her promise to him. "I'm sorry Naru-chan, but it's too late now." Naruto looked sad and hurt as his Kachan brought herself to his level, even calling him by his affectionate nickname, hoping to lessen the blow. But you promised," he whined. His Kachan never broke a promise to him before. "I know, but I'll take you first thing in the morning, I promise okay," she told him. But like the one before, this too will become one of the many promises that she failed to keep. Naruto only nodded sadly, looking down and keeping quiet the rest of the trip home. It unnerved the family how quiet their knucklehead was tonight. Hashirama just finished putting the triplets to bed, but as soon as his Kachan left his room, Naruto jumped out of bed, still fully clothed. He opened his window, looking back to his door, he whispered sadly. "Sorry Kachan, I promised Hinata-chan I'd give her present." With those words the boy jumped out the window. Naruto arrived at the Hyuga compound in record time. Like his dad said, he was still in Uzumaki and possessed almost endless stamina. He easily snuck in through a loose brick in the wall, one that only someone his size could fit through. Once on the other side, he put the brick back so he wouldn't get caught and he made his way to Hinata-chan's room. After sneaking past half the compound that seemed unusually quiet tonight, he made it just outside Hinata-chan's room. But he saw a shadow sneaking through the garden like him. On closer inspection, he saw it was a ninja in a strange cloak. But Naruto's eyes widened in fear as he spotted the tied up and unconscious Hinata-chan on the man's shoulders. "Hinata-chan!" Naruto shouted as loud as he could, startling the man as he turned to see the blonde brat. Naruto charged, shouting. "What the hell have you done to Hinata-chan?" The shout woke up most of the compound. The ninja turned, seeing lights coming on and footsteps heard, not concerned with the blonde brat at all. This was a big mistake because like a blonde-haired rocket, Naruto covered the distance between him and the man in an instant. Naruto ready to punch and hit the man right below the legs, where a man's most precious treasure lay. "Fuck. You damn brat." He cursed as he held his damaged balls. After the last few months of street fighting and the momentum behind him, Naruto's punch packed quite a wallop. The man dropped the kidnapped Hyuga heiress and Naruto rushed to her side, untying the bindings. He shook Hinata, who groaned, starting to wake up. The man could clearly hear the coming Hyuga, who now knew he was here. He had to deal with the brat quickly and leave as he went through hand signs. Lightning style. Thunderbolt. He called out blue lighting from his hands that headed straight to Naruto. Naruto looked at the lightning just in time to see it hit him. His whole body was shocked as it hit him, and he gave a silent scream of pain as the electricity filled him, destroying his nerves and killing him. Hinata woke up just at the moment to see Naruto trying to scream in pain as blue light electrocuted him. "Naruto-kun." She cried in horror as her beloved was being murdered right in front of her. Naruto, just barely conscious, struggled to look at her. He couldn't let her down. He had to protect his most precious person. "I can't give up. Hinata-chan needs me." Naruto struggled, but the pain faded slowly and almost completely, and for a second Naruto thought he was dead, as all traces of pain vanished. "I'm sorry. Hinata-chan." As he said those thoughts, the blue lighting started moving towards his open mouth, as if something was sucking it up. The blue light entered the mouth. Both the kidnapper and Hinata watched in amazement as Naruto seemed to eat the lighting. Before they knew it, the lightning attack was gone without a trace. Blue-slitted eyes glared at the man. Naruto's skin still had a few burns, and his clothes were burning from the attack, but he didn't care. The pain was gone, he felt some power swell up inside him as a warmth spread from his stomach. Naruto charged, rushing the man with speed a 3-year-old shouldn't possess. With a glowing yellow hand of what looked to be enveloped in lighting, Naruto punched the man in the balls a second time. The force and power behind it tripled the power of his first punch. The electricity around his hand entered the man, destroying any hope of ever having children and causing unimaginable pain as it stimulated the nerves. The man gave an ear-piercing scream that was heard all throughout the village. "Ah!" The man collapsed, his mind unable to handle the pain or loss of his manhood. Naruto looked at the man with a grin. He had no idea what happened, but he had done it. He protected Hinata-chan. The power that filled him left and he dropped to the ground exhausted. He was caught by a crying Hinata who hugged him with a death grip. "And Naruto-kun. I thought. I lost. You." She cried into his shoulder. Naruto struggled to return her hug and try to reassure her. "Hinata-chan. I'm okay, I promise." The girl just kept crying. The Ashi and the rest of the Hyuga clan arrived at the scene, surprised to see the children and the drowned man. Seeing that Naruto was most likely injured, he ordered. "Get the children to safety and give them medical attention now." He barked out and 2 branch members moved in. Naruto picked up a small box that fell out of his pocket when he was hit. He and Hinata were taken to the clan doctor. The Ashi and his brother approached the downed man, turning him over. They removed the mask, only to see brown hair and beard. "Ani-sama, this is his brother," started, but he cut him off. "That Hokage-sama immediately and tell him what happened and that his child is here." He ordered his brother to leave straight to the Hokage's house. "Arrest this man now and make sure he can't escape." He ordered and 2 more branch members took the intruder away. Ashi arrived at the Hokage's residence and rang the doorbell a few times. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. "What?" Both Kushina and Minato shouted in their night clothes and bed hair. Ashi had to struggle not to look at Kushina's revealing nightgown that was transparent and showed her developed breasts and curves. "Ashi, you better have a good reason for waking us up at this late hour or else." She growled, keeping the man focused. Yes, Kushina-sama. There's been an incident at the Hyuga compound and your son was involved. Both parents looked confused for a moment before Kushina ran up the stairs and slammed open all the children's rooms, waking them up, but stopped cold when she got to the last one. Naruto's gone. She screamed. Both Minato and Kushina left, but not before calling Anbu to look after their children. Kushina arrived at the Hyuga compound to see her son being cared for by Hitomi and a sleeping Hinata that clung to him like a lifeline. She noticed the bandages wrapped around him making him almost look like a mummy. In a rage, Kushina charged up to her son. "Hey Kachan," Naruto stated, before his angry Kachan slapped him across the face. "What were you thinking sneaking out?" She cried, tears staining her face. She was terrified when she found him missing, even more so when she saw him banged up like he was in a battle. Both Hitomi and Hinata, who woke up, watched horrified as Naruto cried, rubbing his red cheek. He had never been hit by his Kachan before. "Beep boo but. K Kachan. Aye. No, buts. Get back to the house this instant." She shouted, trying to grab him and take him where she could keep him safe. Naruto recoiled, scared after he was hit. He leaned into Hinata who was comforting him. Kushina was about to pry Naruto away when, "Kushina. I think it would be best if Naruto stays tonight." Hitomi tried to calm down the emotional mother. But she stammered, still crying. "No buts. You're too emotional right now and Naruto's fine with us, come back tomorrow and we'll explain what happened." Kushina was about to argue when sniffling reached her ears. Sniff. Sniff. Looking behind Hitomi, she saw a shivering Naruto crying into Hinata's shoulder. The pit in her stomach sank as the realization hit her like lead. As she hit her own son. Her pride and joy. Covering her mouth in horror, more tears started to fall because of what she did. "And Naruto-chan. I'm sorry." She tried to reach for him, but Naruto shuffled closer to Hinata in fear. Hitomi put her hand on her friend's shoulder. Kushina was destroyed after seeing her own son so fearful of her. Giving her friend a pained glance, Hitomi just shook her head no, already knowing what Kushina was going to ask. Kushina left the room, not another word said, not knowing how to fix things, and was afraid of what tomorrow would bring. "Naru-chan, please forgive me." She silently pleaded, tears falling as she made her way back home. Minato glared at the ambassador of Kumo, he was pissed. This man almost killed his son and tried to kidnap an innocent child. Take him to Ibiki and Inoichi. Tell them to get every last drop of information from him in the most painful way possible. He growled out, leaving the room in silence. But he forgot one important fact, how did his son take out a Jonin? The Yondaime Hokage never once questioned what actually happened that night. After Kushina's outburst, Naruto cried for a while clinging to Hinata, who was comforting him the whole time. Eventually the two children went to bed together. "Ha-chan. I'm sorry. I just wanted to give Hinata-chan her present." The young boy was upset, thinking that his Kachan may hate him now. He was afraid to lose her. "Naruto-kun." Hinata's sweet voice broke him out of his thoughts. His blue eyes, red from crying, looked into Hinata's lavender orbs. "You did nothing wrong. Kushina-san was just worried for you. I'm sure it will all be right." She told him, calming the boy down a little. And she leaned closer, causing the boy to blush as he felt something wonderfully soft touch his cheek and causing a tingling sensation. Thank you for saving me." She blushed, having just kissed the boy she really liked on the cheek. Her blonde savior was blushing up a storm, never having anyone but his Kachan and a few times his Amato kiss him on the cheek. The boy gulped, one hand touching his still tingling cheek. "And no problem. Hinata-chan. I'll always protect you." He stuttered out embarrassed. He felt his heart racing suddenly as Hinata gave him a heartfelt smile of thanks. "What's happening? What's this strange feeling?" He thought, feeling such a new sensation for the first time. Watching as Hinata closed her eyes, he couldn't help but admire how beautiful she was. Her face was round, her smooth skin glowed a pale silver, like starlight, the moonlight hit her showing all her feminine features. Her silky midnight blue hair did the same, and his eyes must have been deceiving him because he could have sworn he saw lavender sparkles coming from it. Thump. 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 He tried to control his eccentric heart, but it just beat faster and faster as he gazed at the girl's ethereal beauty before him. "Hinata-chan. You're so beautiful." He gazed at her in admiration until he remembered the original reason he came to her tonight. "Stupid. You still need to give her present." As his inner voice reminded him, his hand was making its way into his pocket where a small lavender box was kept. "Hinata-chan, are you still awake?" he asked shyly with a bit of worry. "Why yeah. I'm awake." Yawn. Hinata mumbled half asleep. "Well. I still am. Haven't given you your present yet," he told her. Hinata's eyes opened as Naruto pulled out a small lavender box. Looking at it, Hinata's eyes went to Naruto-kun, who nodded silently, telling her to take it. Hinata took the small box, touched it. The boy she only knew for about a month, bought her a present. Even more so when she realized it was the original reason he came out tonight. Opening the box, her mouth flew open, gasping in surprise at what she saw. It was a wonderful necklace that was probably one of the most beautiful things she saw. "Happy birthday, Hinata-chan." He smiled as the girl stared in shock at the present. It was spherical with a slight oval shape, a small piece of string completing it. But the necklace was made out of gemstones with a red ruby cut into the Uzumaki spiral. But that wasn't the most surprising thing about it, because on the front along with the ruby was a crescent moon made of purple sapphire. It was cut perfectly so it fitted with the ruby Uzumaki spiral. Picking it up to examine more clearly, she notices that the main part of the necklace was thicker than she thought. Turning the necklace around, there was a sun made of orange topaz. Like the moon on the front, it was cut so it fit perfectly into the center of the ruby, but in the center, a contrast of the orange was the bright red of another ruby stone, cut into the shape of the Hyuga flame. Then Naruto-kun. It's beautiful." She stuttered in astonishment. The necklace in front of her would have. "Oh, Kami-sama. This must have cost a fortune. Why you didn't need to spend that much on." She was cut off by Naruto. "Don't worry, I got a lot of money for my birthday since Koch-an and Toussaint couldn't buy me anything special since I wasn't joining in on the training." He told her smiling, which made it worse for the girl. As heir to the noble Hyuga clan, she could tell this was one of the most expensive things she's ever seen and it would have had to be custom bought to get it cut like this. One part of her was delighted over the fact that Naruto-kun spent so much for her. The other part, however, couldn't help but feel incredibly guilty that he spent so much of his money on her. Then Naruto-kun. "I don't." She was once more cut off. "Hinata-chan, that is a present from me to you. If you don't accept it then it would have been such a waste since I had it made with you in mind. If you really want to thank me for it, then wear it and show me how beautiful it looks on you." He smiled, causing the girl to blush at what he was implying. She handed Naruto the necklace and he was about to protest but was cut off. Will you put it on me, Naruto-kun?" The boy took the offered necklace, nodding dumbly. Making his way behind the girl's neck, he clicked the necklace into place. Both children were blushing madly as their faces almost touched, an inch closer, and they would have shared their first kiss together. Backing away, Naruto put his hand over his heart that was beating a million times faster than before. Picking up the necklace once more from around her neck, Hinata smiled even more with a pink blush. It warmed the boy's heart seeing her so happy. Deciding to be brave, Hinata shouted, "I love it," while jumping into Naruto's arms. The boy was blushing madly as he hugged Hinata back, smelling her lavender scent as he resisted the urge to bury his face into her hair. Noticing after a few minutes Hinata didn't move, he looked down to see her asleep, smiling blissfully. Smiling peacefully himself, he got comfortable with the blue-haired beauty in his arms. As the boy drifted off to sleep, Hinata's smile got wider as she snuggled into her Naruto-kun, more delighted that her plan worked. In a black void, a rainbow-colored orb glowed behind a cage with a seal on it. It just floated there with what looked like water below reflected back the orb's light. The orb was still before a spark of yellow electricity circled around the orb. Chapter 4. A failed promise. 10 months later, it's been almost a year since Hinata's attempted kidnapping by Kumo and Naruto's rescue of her. Thanks to Kumo-nin being taken alive, Konoha's interrogation department was able to get all of Kumo's plans. The Yondaime Hokage was furious when he found that along with kidnapping the Hyuga heiress, his youngest son and daughter were both targets if the opportunity arose. Minato was thanking his lucky stars. He listened to his sensei and made extra care to listen to his sensei's words more often, a decision that will cause more problems than it will solve. Kumo tried to plead that they had nothing to do with it, but after showing evidence Konoha found after ambushing the Kumo extraction team near the borders of the Land of Fire, they could not weasel out of it. With this evidence and news of how Kumo's ninja was captured by a child, the village suffered a humiliating defeat. Once news reached the daimyo of the Land of Lighting, he forced the village of Kumo to pay reparations to Konoha, as well as cut the village's budget, weakening their strength. It was that decision that prevented the Yondaime Hokage from going to war, who was convinced by the council and his sensei to accept the money to aid in the further recovery of their village after Kyuubi's attack 4 years prior. Rumors quickly spread about the son of the Hokage saving the Hyuga heiress. However, because of his status as Jinchuriki, it became widely known that it was the youngest son and not the eldest, causing the villagers' treatment of Menma to improve drastically, even going as far as believing he would become Hokage like his Toussaint one day. To the shy little boy who dreamed of becoming Hokage, this was a big confidence boost. However, not all of the aftermath of what is now known as the Hyuga affair was good. Due to Kushina's outburst on the night the relationship between her and her eldest suffered, Naruto was wary of Kushina the months after, and though he eventually forgives her, there has been a strain on their relationship ever since. While a wedge was put between mother and son, the relationship between Hinata and Naruto only grew closer, much to Menma's envy, who trained harder, hoping to surpass his brother and earn the Hyuga era's attention. It was the eve before the triplets' 4th birthday, and Kushina was preparing for the celebration tomorrow with a big smile. Like she promised last year, Naruto was going to start training, and she planned to work extra hard with the boy so he can catch up to his siblings and repair the rift that formed between her and her son. The triplets were currently playing outside with Hinata. Since it was their birthday tomorrow, Menma and Akamai were given the day off. It was the first time in ages that all the siblings and Hinata got together. Menma and Akamai were a bit disappointed since they couldn't play ninja games because Naruto had yet to start his training, but they were just happy they could play with their Oni-san like old times. Hinata didn't mind much since she was used to playing non-ninja games with her Naruto-kun, despite having started her own training, her last birthday. But because of her attempted kidnapping, her training was increased to ensure that she could defend herself if Kumo tried anything again. This left the only child who didn't start his training yet to be very lonely, but the thought of him being able to train together with his precious siblings kept him going and smiling, and tomorrow, he was finally going to be able to play with them on equal footing. At this time, a white-haired man appeared in a cloud of smoke in between Menma and Akamai, jumping in surprise as they whirled around to face who it is, Naruto quickly taking a stance in front of Hinata in case it was Kumo. Hinata blushed at Naruto's protectiveness of her and took this opportunity to cling to Naruto, despite not being that afraid. When the smoke dispersed, both Menma and Akamai shouted, "Jiraiya-sensei." The white-haired sensei smiled at the two as they looked at him with big smiles. "What's up, you little brats, did you miss me?" he asked, smiling broadly. "Nope." Both Akami and Menma said bluntly. Their sensei fell to his knees as he pretended to cry. "I'm hurt. How could you treat your own godfather like that?" His crying didn't last very long until the two children broke out in laughter. "Ha ha ha, don't worry, Jiraiya-sensei." Akamai started. "We really did miss you." Menma stuttered, causing the sage to frown. While the boy's confidence had skyrocketed the past year, he still hadn't managed to completely get rid of his lack of it. "Well, of course you did, after all, I am the greatest godfather on earth," he exclaimed, pointing two thumbs to himself with a goofy grin on his face that only made the two laugh. Naruto and Hinata watched the trio due to their own reasons. Naruto never really got along with the sage, he always seemed to focus more on his siblings than him even before they started training. Hinata really didn't care and had yet to let go of Naruto. Jiraiya may have been one of the greatest ninja alive, but her Aka-chan called him a giant pervert. She had no idea what that meant, but the anger and disgust she said it with was enough to wipe away any respect she had for his title. Once the trio finished laughing, Akamai finally asked the question everyone wanted to know. "So Jai-san, why are you here?" "I'm glad you asked." He started, pulling the great big scroll on his back and presenting it before them. "I've talked to your two-san and we agreed to let you sign the Toad contract." Both of them looked at the scroll with sparkles in their eyes. Even Naruto looked at the scroll in interest. The triplets grew up hearing stories about their two-san and Aji-san exploits with the mighty summons. They longed for the day they too could become Toad summoners and fight side by side with the mighty beasts. Opening the scroll, Jiraiya got it ready for the newest Toad summoners to sign. "Now write your names in blood in one of the empty spaces and then fingerprints to finish the contract." Both of the children bit their thumbs and quickly carried out the sage's instructions. Naruto started walking over too, but when he got there the sage pulled up the scroll. "Great, once we start back up with training, I'll teach you how to summon your first Toad K." The sage ruffled Menma's and Akamai hair. "Happy birthday to you too." Naruto could only watch with slight shock, and Hinata glared at the sage for completely ignoring her Naruto-kun. As Menma and Akamai started talking about the toads they were going to, Naruto approached his godfather. "Jiraiya-sensei, what about me?" "Boo." The sage huffed, forgetting about the oldest sibling. "Aren't I going to be allowed to sign the contract too?" The little boy asked with hope, only to have his dreams crushed. "Sorry boy, but you're not ready for something like this yet, maybe once you've trained a bit, but not until then." Naruto only frowned, his eyes looking downcast at the ground. He quickly put on a fake smile and tried to think more positive thoughts. His siblings didn't notice they were too engrossed in their own talks, but Hinata did and hated seeing Naruto-kun excluded. "Well then, what are you going to teach me?" he asked, excitement in his voice at the thought of finally starting his ninja training. "Boo." The sage said confusingly, having no idea what the boy meant until he clarified. "I mean, I'm going to start training soon too, aren't I? What am I going to learn? Will it be fireballs or clones or the cool flashing you used just now?" Naruto asked excitedly, his early disappointment gone as he imagined himself doing all the cool things he's seen and heard ninja do. "Crap, I totally forgot about him." Minato promised he'll start training the boy this year, but Menma and Akamai needed much more if the prophecy is to succeed. Looking at the excited boy, he didn't know what to tell him and just ruffled the boy's head like he did with the other two. We'll see. The boy was ecstatic, he's seen his godfather do this to his siblings all the time, but he never remembered him doing it to him. The boy thought his godfather was finally acknowledging him and couldn't wait to join him and his sibling for their next training session. But he was sadly wrong on that thought because the sage walked away. We can't take the boy on for training, so I'll speak to Minato and sort it out. We can't have it compromising the prophecy. Naruto went back to Hinata, who was worried something just fell off between Naruto-kun's talk with him. Hinata-chan. Her mother called, coming to pick her up. Hearing this, Hinata quickly looked to the entrance of Namiki's Uzumaki household, seeing her smiling mother. Menma quickly turned to say goodbye to Hinata. Bye. Hi, his goodbye was muffled though, as Naruto beat him to it. Bye Hinata-chan, I'll see you tomorrow. Naruto smiled at his best friend, who blushed at his attention. In a moment of bravery, Hinata hugged her Naruto-kun, her face turning bright red as she wished him a happy birthday. Bye Naruto-kun and happy birthday. This shocked Menma, making jealous as he watched Hinata-chan hug his Ani-san. This didn't go unnoticed by Jiraiya either. Well, isn't this interesting? The kid got himself a childhood crush. The sage was delighted at this revelation, thinking he finally found a way to solve the kid's confidence problems. Hinata pulled away, blushing heavily, unable to meet Naruto's eyes, who was blushing himself, not expecting the sudden display of affection from the usually reserved Hyuga. Sure, it happened before, but it was usually him that did it, and when Hinata was upset and not the other way around. Hinata fingered the necklace Naruto gave her last year, remembering all that happened that night. I'll give you your birthday present tomorrow, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled brightly, he couldn't wait to see what she got him. Turning to Naruto's siblings. Bye Menma, Akamai, see you tomorrow. Bye Hinata. Akamai called, waving her hand. Menma looked up at hearing his One-chan shout goodbye. Bye Hinata-chan. He said quietly and half-heartedly, but she still heard and smiled at the boy, causing him to blush. However, his blush disappeared when Hinata sent a loving look to his Ani before running off to her mother. Akamai and Naruto went to the gate waving their friend goodbye until she was out of sight. Leaving Menma to sulk on his own. You know, if you really want her attention you need to grow stronger and take the initiative. Looking to his right, he saw that the words of wisdom came from his godfather. Would Hinata-chan really notice me if became stronger? He asked for hope in his voice. Of course, take it from me. I've been with hundreds of ladies and they love it when a big strong man takes charge. Believe me, just get stronger and the little Hyuga will be all yours. The sage encouraged, hoping his plan would work. Menma's eyes sparkled as he thought of Hinata-chan clinging to him and not his Ani, and he blushed at the thought of her hugging him. I'll do it. I'll train harder and become stronger for Hinata-chan. He shouted in a burst of confidence. That's a boy and don't worry, I'll help you all the way. Jiraiya ruffled the boy's head before going in. Menma glared at remembering the hug Hinata gave, and he felt a strong sense of anger towards his beloved Ani-san. I won't lose Ani-san, not anymore, and definitely not Hinata-chan. But that promise made Menma went to the back to get some training in before dinner. Kushina was getting into bed after tucking in her triplets. She had an incredibly bright smile after hearing Naruto talk excitedly about training while she tucked him in. So, Minato, what are we going to start Naruto on? Kushina asked her husband. Causing the man next to her to look her way and dreading the conversation that was to come. I was thinking about chakra control and then some sealing. Menma and Akamai haven't been able to pick it up, so maybe Naruto will. Kushina was excited to start teaching her eldest, sure she loved teaching her other children, but Jiraiya and Minato always seemed to be overbearing during training. She was hoping while they took care of Menma and Akamai training, she would be left alone to train with Naruto and get him up to speed. As Kushina excitedly went on, Minato finally managed to force the words he was dreading to say. Actually Kushina-chan, I think it would be best if we hold off training Naruto-kun for now. He said quickly, not stopping only to grimace at the face his wife gave. Kushina had a look of hurt and confusion at her husband's response. They already excluded Naruto for a whole year and promised to make it up to him this year. Minato? What do you mean by that? We already promised we'll start this year and we can't break it. Kushina almost shouted, starting to lose her temper, but refrained because the kids were sleeping. Now listen to me Kushina-chan, it's just that Menma and Akamai aren't as far as we hoped. We didn't even start with the Kyuubi chakra yet. He tried pleading his case. Which was why we excluded Naruto to train them to better control their powers in the first place. He went on, not liking the frown and disappointing look his wife gave him. Be that as it may, we can't just break our promise. I'll train him myself if I have to. Kushina told her husband determinedly. We can't do that Kushina, your chains are the only surefire way to ensure they don't lose control. Me and Jiraiya-sensei can use seals, but we need to get close to do it and who knows what could happen in the meantime. Kushina would admit he had a good point. Her ability to repress chakra was the key reason she was chosen as a Jinchuriki, and her chains made it easy to keep them under control. But still, that's no reason to not let him join in. Minato could only frown at his wife, hoping that the conversation would end quickly without becoming a full-blown fight. But you know how Naruto is. Remember that incident with Kuma last year. This caused Kushina to halt as a past fear showed up. How could she forget waking up to find Naruto was missing? It was one of the scariest moments of her life. And when she found him injured after almost being killed, her heart stopped. What do you think Naruto would do if Menma or Akamai were to lose control? Minato told her already knew the answer. It didn't take long for Kushina to work out what after all Naruto was always the ideal big brother. He would try and protect them even if it meant getting hurt. Her husband's words echoed, causing her to imagine Naruto taking on an out-of-control Menma and Akamai, only to be fatally injured. No, she whispered, almost crying in fear for her boy. Look at you and I don't want to do this, but Naruto is too reckless. He gets into fights all the time and if we train him now, he'll just put himself in more dangerous situations. Kushina was practically crying, she could still remember all the parents that came to complain about Naruto for beating up their children. Seeing his distressed wife, he put his arm over her shoulder hugging her. Once Menma and Akamai have gotten used to the fox's chakra and we don't need to worry about them losing control all of a sudden, then Naruto can join and by then he'll be much more mature than he is now. You know how hard it is to keep control of the Kyuubi. At first the children need to build up a resistance to its influence before we can safely train them with Naruto. Minato's words seemed to finally get through to his wife who only nodded in his embrace. Don't worry, once Naruto started at the academy. He'll get the basics down there and we can start teaching him more advanced stuff. By then Menma and Akamai are sure to be where we want them to be. Kushina could only silently cry, she hated the thought of leaving her son alone, but her husband's words made sense. They would just have to tell Naruto he'll have to wait a little longer. Unfortunately for the two, a young boy with bright blonde hair, blue eyes and whiskered marked cheeks heard everything. He got up to go to the bathroom and brush his teeth, forgetting to do it while he was telling his Kachan about all the things he wanted to learn when he started training. But sadly, that wasn't the case. He heard everything. It's just for another year, so Amato and Itato can be safe. He whispered, but he couldn't stop the silent tear that fell as he made his way back up to his room. If it was for his family, would do anything, he was the oldest son. So he would make sure his siblings are safe no matter what. The next day, the Hokage's family was once more holding a large celebration for their triplets' birthday. There were a few more people this year, most of them here for Menma and Akamai. All except one, Naruto was waiting in the corner watching while his sibling tried to perform the summoning. When Hinata and her family arrived, she immediately went to Naruto, spotting his bright yellow hair straight away and went to give him his present. Naruto-kun. She practically sang. Naruto put up a fake smile, trying his best not to show his disappointment. Hey, Hinata-chan. Hinata felt that there was something off with Naruto's smile and presented him with his present, which was really big. It might have been the biggest present there. Naruto looked at the surprisingly huge gift Hinata presented with a blush. Embarrassed, having never really received such a big present before, he felt a smile come to his lips as he accepted it and began opening it. I hope you like it. Like was an understatement, he practically loved her. Hinata-chan outdid herself. There wasn't just one present but several. There was a custom-made ninja pouch and shuriken holder, along with custom-made shuriken and kunai. These weren't the practice tools his siblings got, but real ones that looked like they were made of silver. There were also 3 scrolls for learning the most basic academy, the Bushin, Kawarimi and Henge no Jutsu. Finally, there were 2 books, one about chakra theory and the other about trap making with a beginner starting kit. I thought that with this you'll be able to catch up to your siblings in no time. And now that you're starting your training. She blushed, fidgeting with her fingers. The delight he felt went away and a frown appeared on his face, remembering the fact he won't really be able to use them. Is Naruto-kun doing something wrong? Hinata asked worriedly, scared that he didn't like the present she brought for him. No, it's not that. It's just I won't be able to use them. His voice was small as he looked sorrowful at what was the best present of his life. What do you mean? Hinata couldn't understand why he wouldn't be able to use them. I'm not starting my training this year. He sighed, the thought hurting him after remembering his parents' words last night. Huh? Why not? The shy Hyuga almost shouted, she knew just how much he was looking forward to this. Itato and Amato aren't where Kachan and Tusan want them to be yet. So my training is on hold for another year. He told her sadly, watching her get angrier at those words. Well, you can train with me then. The offer intrigued him and made him happy, but he couldn't really say yes. I doubt your Tusan and clan would allow it. After attempts to join Hinata's training sessions, he learned firsthand that he wouldn't be allowed to just join. I don't care, I'll train you myself if I have to, and then when your parents finally do train you, you can show them all your hard work. Hinata said with confidence, not going to let Naruto be left out anymore. She couldn't do much this past year with her own training and knew how hard it was for Naruto being left alone while everyone trained but him. She even saw him trying to train on his own, but having no idea where to start. Naruto managed to crack a smile. It was still smaller than usual, but it was an honest one. Bringing the girl into a hug, he whispered in her ear. "Thank you." Feeling the heat going to her face and desperately trying not to faint, Hinata just hugged Naruto back. "Anytime, Naruto-kun." Those words made Naruto want to cry. Hinata was just an amazing friend, and he loved her for it. The Ashi watched his daughter go over to the eldest son of the Hokage. Personally, he wished she took a liking to the youngest son. Knowing that the Kyuubi chakra along with the Uzumaki heritage could have vast potential. It also didn't help that the children were treated as heroes for saving the village from the fox. His wife, however, didn't care about the future or politics, and all that mattered to her was that her daughter was happy. She approved of the girl's choice in boys even at this age. It was plain as day to see that Naruto would become a fine young man. Menma wasn't happy as he saw Hinata run over to his Ani and then ended up hugging her again. He was enraged with jealousy, and as he did the hand signs for summoning jutsu, tickle of red chakra burst as he slammed his hand down. The Fuin jutsu of the Toad clan spread out from the palm of his hand. Everyone watched, surprised as a cloud of smoke appeared. As it cleared, a little green toad that was more of a cross between a tadpole and toad appeared. Everyone clapped as Menma succeeded in summoning for the very first time. "Aw, come on, how you do that?" Akamai pouted as she tried to do this, but failed each time. Jiraiya and Minato only smiled at the boy's progress. Delighted with his summoning, he scooped up his toad tadpole thingy and ran off to show Hinata and his Ani-san. "Hinata-chan, Ani-san, look, I summoned a toad." The boy showed off his toad excitedly. Both of them looked at said toad, realizing it wasn't a toad yet, but didn't say anything. "Just wait, I know it's small, but I'm going to summon big ones like you sang once we start training," he said excitedly, happy to have gotten it down first. His Ani-san and Wani-chan always beat him, but not this time he came out on top. "Live it up, Itato, I'll catch up and summon a toad twice as big." Akamai was playfully challenged, happy for her Itato success, even if she was a little jealous. "Then I'll just summon one twice as big as yours by then." Menma challenged back. Seeing his siblings fight over hurt, especially one he wanted so badly to learn. Naruto began running off his sibling, hardly noticing, but Hinata did, and she glared at the siblings. When Menma and Akamai looked back to see their Ani missing, they asked, "Where did Ani go?" She wanted to shout at them for being so inconsiderate of Naruto's feelings, but knew that wouldn't make Naruto any happier. So, she just ignored them, going to find her Naruto-kun. This caused Menma to feel a bit hurt, but once he remembered that Hinata-chan actually paid attention to him when he showed her the toad, it strengthened his resolve. "Just wait, Hinata-chan, I'm going to get stronger and stronger for you." As Naruto ran, he ended up bumping into his Ka-chan. "Naruto, watch where you are going," she scolded, but when he just ran past without so much as an apology, she got a bit angry. "Naruto," she growled, the boy stopping at his Ka-chan's warning tone. "What do we say when we bump into someone?" she asked, wanting an apology. It was basic manners to apologize when you bump into someone. Naruto's fist clenched, slowly turning, he asked. "Ka-chan, when am I going to start training?" A wave of guilt overcame Kushina, and she was left too shocked to say anything. Having no idea that Naruto overheard her and Minato last night. Using this opportunity, Naruto ran to his room and away from his Ka-chan, who didn't have the heart to chase after him. Naruto laid on his bed, everything was looking up. His godfather and Ka-chan were acknowledging him, and he was so happy to be with his sibling again. But in the end, it didn't happen and he was excluded from his family for another year. Naruto didn't hear the door open as Hinata slipped in, seeing Naruto lying on the bed as he sulked. Taking a seat next to him, she lovingly stroked his back and hair as the boy began crying. It tore her heart seeing him like this, no matter what the reason. Couldn't his family see they were hurting him? "Don't worry, Naruto-kun, I'm here." Hinata lied down, hugging Naruto's head to chest. He hugged her back until he fell asleep. When Hitomi went looking for her daughter and saw them lying together on the bed, she smiled and asked Kushina if it was okay for Hinata to stay. She agreed, knowing how much her children loved Hinata, having no idea that Hinata had fallen asleep in Naruto's room. In the black void behind its cage, the rainbow orb had grown bigger. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr. An angry growl emerged from it within. The light began shifting as it took an oval shape like that of an egg. The orb growled again, but quicker as a pulse of power came off it. The cage around it tried stopping it, but the pulse of power almost slipped through with no challenge, only the tiniest bit of energy not making it past the seal. In the real world, Naruto glowed in a rainbow aura for a few seconds, and as suddenly as it appeared, it disappeared, sinking within the boy. Chapter 5. A terrible first day. Akamai was humming a tune. It was early morning as she helped prepare breakfast with her Ka-chan. The now 5-year-old girl was delighted because today was the day her and her brothers were going to start going to the academy together. "I can't wait for me and Ani-san and Itato to begin the academy and finally be together again," She didn't understand why her parents didn't let her Ani-san start training with them like they had promised, and she hated it. She missed the days when the three of them would be close and inseparable from each other. But once Menma and I started training, those days just faded away. Her smile quickly turned into a frown at the recollection of the growing distance between her Ani-san. While they trained, their Ani-san just seemed to fade out. The time we spent together just keeps becoming less and less. Hurry up and join us, Ani, we miss you. I miss you. Looking to her Kachan who was humming the same tune she was humming until a few minutes ago. Her crimson hair was tied up in a ponytail just like her own, and she had a glowing smile as she prepared food for her family. As the sun hit her mother, she couldn't help but admire how beautiful she was, hoping that one day she would be just as beautiful. Hashirama, noticing her only daughter looking at her, turned her bright smile and violent eyes, showering her little girl with love. What's wrong, daughter? Blushing at her Kachan, Akamai shyly looked away. Her cheeks were almost as red as her hair. Kachan, why hasn't Ani-san started training with us yet? Her voice sweet and childlike, her blue eyes sparkling in innocence and cheeks slightly puffed. Her daughter was adorable, and any other day Kushina would squeal and give her daughter a big hug. But despite it being an innocent question from her daughter, it only brought out a feeling of guilt from Kushina. Her conversation with Minato echoed in her mind. She didn't like it one bit that her eldest had to be left out. But her worrying for his safety and her husband's reasoning won out over her motherly instincts. As her only daughter looked at her innocently, all she could do was tell her. He's just not ready. Her voice broke, showing that she was unsure of what she was saying. This only confused the young girl who was cutely tilting her head. Seeing her daughter's obvious confusion, she leaned down to her height, patting her on the head soothingly and telling her. Don't worry. He'll join you soon. Once he's gone to the academy, I'm sure Nari-chan will be ready and then you can all train together. This brought a smile to the little girl's face, causing her Kachan to give just as big a smile. Now go and wake your Itato and Ani-san, breakfast almost ready. Akamai's blue eyes sparkled. Okay Kachan. Running off in a happy mood thanks to the news that her Ani-san will be with them again. Hashirama could only smile at her daughter's happiness at the thought of her Ani-san joining them in training. Turning to finish dishing up breakfast, she could only hope that her words were true and her eldest would join this year. Nari-chan will join in this year for sure, databang. As Akamai ran off to wake her brothers, she couldn't keep the excitement she felt. Finally. Now that we're all attending the academy, we can all be together and soon Naruto Ani-san will start training with us too. Quickly opening the door to her Itato's room, she ran to the bed where her Itato was sleeping soundly. Smiling at how peaceful he looked, she gently put her hand on him and she shook him awake. Come Itato, it's time for breakfast. Grumbling Menma replied with. Okay. Wani-chan. He got up and wiped the sleep from his eyes, his Wani-chan was already running to their Ani-san's room. Entering, she shouted. Wake up Ani-san. Her voice echoed through the room, yet her Ani didn't budge one bit. Still snoring soundly, his sheets were thrown all over the place from all the twisting and turning as he did during the night. Getting mad, she glared at her Ani and marched up to his bed, shaking him vigorously. Wake up Ani or we'll be late to the academy. But Naruto's response was him turning away in his sleep still, she knew she had no choice. Taking a deep breath, she shouted at the top of her lungs. Raymond. Before she knew it, something sped past her, causing her to spin around from the force generated as it passed her. When she finally stopped, her hair was all messy. Blinking in surprise, she saw that her Ani was no longer in bed. Des Ani-san, couldn't you have at least made your bed? Leaning over, she grabbed the sheets, making her Ani-san's bed for him. What would you do without me, Ani-san? Akamai was walking in the dining room after having finished fixing Ani-san's bed. Ani-san, couldn't you have made your bed before speeding off? She grumbled, her right hand patting her hair back down after her Ani messed it up. Naruto only glared at Izumoto who promptly returned it with her own. You lied, there's no Raymond here. He told her, his voice lanced with annoyance. Well, it was the only way to get you up. Reaching her hand to the back of her head, she lightly pulled at her ponytail, flatting the lost strands back down. Besides, you messed up my hair so we're even. Sticking her tongue out at him, she made her way to her own seat. I just don't understand your obsession with Raymond. Naruto looked shocked at this statement. Hey. You like Raymond as much as any of us do. He said, standing up and pointing an accusing finger at her. That was when I was a kid and you and Kachan made us have it every day. Despite what she was saying, ramen was still one of her top favorite foods, but she was more like her two-sen than her Kachan and knew the importance of eating other foods. Yet she still savored the deliciousness of ramen when it came up. But I'm never going to let them know that, I'll never live it down. Turning her head the other way, her ponytail swung along, she scoffed. Ramen's not that great. Blasphemy. This shout didn't come from her Ani-san, but from her ramen-obsessive Kachan. Ramen is the food of the gods. No Uzumaki has disliked it and none ever will on my watch. Her Kachan started with her finger raised, her Ani agreeing with her as he raised his own finger. Akamai looked at her Shayataudo, hoping he at least retained his sanity. But sadly, she was mistaken as even her Shayataudo was giving her a glare of disappointment along with a nod of agreement at his Kachan's words. Sighing, she thought. Why did I have to be born into a family of ramen addicts? Despite the slight grief she felt at the thought, she couldn't help the small smile that showed on her face. It's good to have you back, Ani. She couldn't remember the last time they all ate and joked together like this. Even her Ani and Kachan were getting along better since forever. The only thing that's disappointing her was the empty chair of her Tusan, who had to leave to do work before the academy opening ceremony. Once they all finished getting ready to leave, the family entered standard Namikaze Uzumaki formation as both Akamai and Menma took hold of one of their Kachan's hands, each with Naruto taking point. After a boring speech given by his Tusan and many slaps by his Minato to keep him awake, the opening speech ended and they got to the fun part. Exhibition matches. In order to measure academy entries' abilities, they would fight randomly against a fellow candidate. This allowed instructors to get a peek at their future students and see what level they were at. However, one match they didn't expect was two of the Hokage's children going at it. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze vs Akami Uzumaki Namikaze. The instructor shouted. Both children looked at one another, slightly worried, having never thought they would end up fighting over anything but ramen before today. Both children made their way to the ring. While they did so, their Tusan had his own private thoughts on the match. It's sad, but Naruto's going to lose. He just doesn't have the training Akamai does. Akamai was unfortunately having the same thoughts, knowing her Ani-san had no training like she did. This is bad, Ani won't stand a chance. I could let him win, but he'll know and Kachan and Tusan will get mad. Naruto gazed at the crowd where his best friend and her family were watching. Hinata was happily cheering for him, her excitement for the match overpowering her shyness, making Menma jealous. Her mother Hitomi, now visibly pregnant with her second child, smiled. I can finally show the results of my training. Over the past year, he trained with both Hinata and Hitomi, and though he couldn't join his friend's training sessions with her Otu-san, Hitomi was more than willing to take the time to train him instead during those times. Ani-san, please give up. I don't want to hurt you. His sorrowful Imato's voice reached his ears, pleading him to give up. Naruto just stared at her with determination in his eyes. Sorry Minato, but I'm not the one who's going to get hurt. Taking his fighting stance, he got ready. His right foot went backwards, turning slightly, his body also turning sideward and hands raised and slightly open. It was a basic stance, but one that served him well when fought off Hinata's bullies. Looking at her Ani worryingly, she resolved to finish this quickly without hurting or embarrassing him too much. Sorry Ani, I'll try and end it quickly. Frowning at her words that hurt for her to say, but she trained for 2 years straight with Tusan, Kachan and Jai-san. Taking her own stance, which was a lower-level version of Yusen's Hakidori hummingbird style. In her mind, there was no way her Ani could stand up to her. The proctor shouted to start. Begin. Rushing her Ani, Akamai sped to Naruto throwing a roundhouse kick, surprising him at the sheer speed she moved at. Despite the surprise, Naruto's arms were able to poorly block it, but he still felt some pain from the force of blow, hitting his awkward guard. She was expecting him to be sent flying like a Tauto usually did, though he did improve when he started putting chakra to his feet. However, she was dead wrong as her Ani turned, his hips throwing his fist forward with slight spin to it and putting his weight behind it as he aimed a punch at her face. Her reflexes kicked in and quickly flipping back, she narrowly avoided the blow, eyes widening in surprise at the wind she felt from the punch. Now in mid-flip, one of her legs caught Ani's chan before finishing landing a few meters away. But Naruto wasn't even fazed by her blow, though he felt the pain, to the girl's eyes he looked completely fine. He withstood her kicks by pure muscle strength, something not even their Itato could do. Smacking his mouth at feeling the pain from her kick to his chin and shaking his arms, it distracted him from the pain and numbness he felt as he quickly charged at his Minato. Propelling off his back foot, Naruto quickly covered the gap between them. Though fast for his age and any other academy entry, besides his siblings and Hinata, to Akamai who was used to her sparring partners using chakra to move faster, her Ani might as well have been moving in slow motion. Throwing a roundhouse kick of his own, Minato easily ducked under it, punching him in the face and sending him flying back a few meters. Naruto was able to recover his footing quickly due to years of beating older bullies, but was unable to recover in time to fully block Minato's next attack. Akamai punched him in the stomach before attempting a kick to the ribs. Managing to block this with his left arm, Naruto was left helpless to the double punches to his face that left him momentarily stunned. His body felt heavy, his arms numb from Minato's blows, and a dull ache came from every spot she landed a hit. Akamai just looked at her Ani in bewilderment. Why doesn't he just go down? Despite the effect of her blows that Naruto was feeling, to Akamai he still looked completely fine, the toll his body was taking was not showing at all. She was used to fighting opponents with enchanted stamina like herself after sparring with a fellow Uzumaki many times. But her unease endurance unnerved her. Not even Naruto was able to withstand her hits for long without showing clear signs of fatigue despite his Uzumaki endurance. But her one's own endurance seemed to be greater than both her and Naruto. Not even Itachi could withstand a combo like that and still look practically fine. I have no choice but to use that. She quickly glanced at Yu-san in the crowd who was looking slightly worried over the state of the match. What she was going to use was an advanced combo her Yu-san showed her, but banned her from using, saying they didn't want anyone to get hurt. Akamai assumed they meant her since she would be performing an advanced technique, but in fact it was to keep Menma safe since the combo could hit several fatal points. Taking her stance and using the tiniest bit of chakra in her legs, she quickly closed the gap between her and her Ani-san. She punched him in the kidney so hard he would be pissing blood for a week, following it up by hitting her stunned Ani with an upper palm strike to the chin. Naruto staggered back as his brain was rattled from the strike and winded from the blow to his kidney. This was exactly what Izumoto wanted as she grabbed his shoulders, kneeing him in his left kidney. Using the force her kick generated, she was perfectly set up for the next blow, doing a 360-degree spin, she landed a knife strike with her right hand to his neck. What followed up was a double punch from her left to his chest and then right punch to his heart. Akamai smirked at the achievement at pulling off such an advanced move despite only being shown it once, as well as the victory she was sure had, but was shocked when she looked at her Ani who was still on his feet. No way. The smirk quickly vanished when seeing her combo had a less than derisible effect she wanted. Naruto's whole body felt numb, his arms and legs felt like lead, and his breathing was ragged as he tried to catch his breath. The sharp pain from kidneys irritated him, making him feel as if he was going to lose control of his bladder any second. His mind was still rattled, his vision was fuzzy, standing more on instinct and force of will more than anything else. Akamai was getting slightly angry now. She trained hard wanting to protect her Ani and Itachi, yet in the end it all seemed pointless, now that no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't beat her Ani-san who had no training at all. She rushed him again, intending to finish this once and for all. But Naruto's vision came back a split second before she was in range and on instinct, he threw a back fist at Izumoto. At the speed she was going, a normal person wouldn't be able to react at all, but her Otu-san once commented that she was faster than he was at her age. The world seemed to slow down. She could clearly see Naruto's punch just inches from her face. But her reflexes were fast enough to react and began to weave under it, but then at last second, her Ani first seemed to glow red, speeding up and colliding into her face. Crack. The sickly sound was hard as Naruto first hit Izumoto dead center in the nose, and blood flew everywhere. Akamai was sent flying as the crowd watched as she lost the match. Naruto's head finally cleared and looked at his downed Izumoto and smiled at having won their match. But that only lasted a moment as a sound reached his ears. Sniff. Sniff. Why? 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 Naruto looked at Izumoto in horror as she cried, her nose broken and her face bloodied. His brotherly instinct to take over her went to help Izumoto, but his Kachan and godmother Tsunade were already attending to her. Naruto, that was too much, this was only supposed to be a friendly spar. Kushina scolded, glaring at her son before going back to attending to her daughter. Tsunade's green chakra was already healing the bone fractures and mending the broken skin. Horror covered Naruto's face as he tried to reply. I didn't mean to. His stuttering was cut off by his Kachan though. Now Naruto, Akamai are hurt. His Kachan shouted at him and scared him, reminding him of the night years ago. Did you see that? Came from the crowd. Turning, Naruto saw all the spectators glaring at him and whispering amongst themselves. They kept saying he did it on purpose out of jealousy, shunning the poor boy. To the villagers, Akamai and Menma were heroes, and Naruto was nothing despite being the Hokage's son too. That made Naruto the bad guy for hurting a little girl so badly, who was not only a hero, but his own sister as well. Adrenaline started pumping through his veins, making the pain he felt fade as their whispers reached his ears. I can't believe that. It was just friendly spar. He did it on purpose. Yeah, he did say he wasn't the one getting hurt. Out of jealousy. All throughout the crowd people were looking at Naruto in disgust. The only ones who weren't were Hinata and Hitomi, who knew full well what happened wasn't Naruto's fault. Even his own Tusan and Itato had looks of disappointment on their faces. You're wrong. I didn't mean to. He said shakily, his voice just over a whisper. But the voices didn't stop and only seemed to get louder. His breath became more ragged as he started to sweat. Stop it. But not one did, they just kept judging him. Stop it. He shouted, causing everyone to look at him before he ran off. Hinata quickly followed, and Hitomi glared at the villagers who were saying that this was proof that he was guilty. Hitomi approached Kushina. Kushina, that was going too far. Her friend only looked at her, not understanding why she was being scolded. Naruto didn't mean to do this. Finally understanding, Kushina responded. But this was supposed to be a friendly spar. That last blow wasn't. It's clear that Naruto wasn't holding back. Hitomi could only look at her redeemed friend, thinking if they were both watching the same match. But Naruto hasn't been trained like a kami was and couldn't really afford to hold back. She tried reasoning, but Kushina ignored her. You saw how unscathed Naruto looked. Akamai was clearly pulling punches and was keeping her blows light. Just like Akamai, everyone else couldn't tell that Naruto was only standing because of his incredible endurance. However, Hitomi and Hinata, who both trained and knew of Naruto's amazing endurance and pain tolerance, could tell Naruto was feeling the hits. That's not true, Kushina. Akamai wasn't holding back either. She tried reasoning, but Kushina didn't believe her, only believing what her eyes showed her. But Akamai was the one that got hurt, so why was Naruto clearly fine? Getting annoyed, Kushina growled out the last bit. Even though it was an accident, her friend making her look like the bad guy still hurt. In her mind, her son needed to learn that what he did was wrong in a light spar. Then maybe you should have trained him so he could hold back and fight her as an equal. Hitomi shouted, taking the red-haired woman aback, her hormones getting the best of her as she walked off, leaving the red women to think. Is this my fault? She had no idea. It's not like they trained Naruto and taught him how to hold back. Jiraiya, who was deep in thought, was worried about the results. This isn't good, Akamai should have easily beaten him, even if she was holding back. We'll need to step up their training. If she can't even beat a beginner who has yet to officially start training, then how can she hold up later on? Naruto ran far from the academy before finally stopping, his exhaustion finally taking over. His lungs hurt so much and his legs were shaking, ready to give way any second now. Naruto-kun. The soft and soothing voice came from a worried Hinata who finally caught up to her best friend. Hinata. I didn't mean to. Hinata shushed him, understanding sparkling in her eyes as she told him. I know Naruto-kun, it wasn't your fault. You just gave it your best, just like Akame did. Her words were quiet, yet clear, soothing Naruto's worries. But I hurt her, I hurt my Minato. He said, disgusted with himself. He was her Ani-san. He was supposed to protect her, not hurt her. Naruto-kun. It's alright, you and Akamai were both prepared for it and you got just as hurt. Looking into her eyes, Naruto only saw worry and acceptance, not the eyes of disappointment or disgust his family and the villagers gave him. Naruto's leg finally gave way, unable to hold themselves up, falling, Naruto was caught by Hinata. Come on, let's get you home. She was full of worry, she's never seen Naruto so tired that he could barely stand up. Finally, at home, Hinata put Naruto on the couch who just lay there silently. Fiddling with her fingers and blushing at the tired Naruto, she took a deep breath, readying herself. And Naruto-kun? She stuttered looking away. Yeah, he mumbled groggily. Hinata looked down and turned red as she asked. Why your clothes? Take them. Oh off. Please. It took a few seconds for her words to sink in as his eyes shot up and he jumped up looking at her. As soon as he shouted it, he grabbed his body that was riddled with pain. Ow. 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 Take. Off. Your clothes and. I'll. Looking closely, Naruto could see Hinata was fiddling with a small jar in her hands. Realizing it was her homemade ointment, he submitted, unable to argue or treat his injuries himself with how much they hurt. Quickly taking off his shirt, Naruto exposed himself in front of the shy Hyuga. Hinata was blushing madly as she watched him take off his shirt, the muscles he had were impressive for someone their age. She was starting to overheat, steam coming out of her ears as she started to black out. But the huge bruises over his body kept her conscious. Quickly, she stroked one of the marks gently, causing a hiss of pain from the blonde boy. Oh, sorry. Hinata said, unscrewing the jar and dapping her fingers in it, gently starting to apply the ointment to his wounds. He could already feel the relief it brought as her soft hands gilded about his body. She rubbed gently into his muscles causing them to relax. Closing his eyes, he just focused on how good her fingers felt as the pain faded bit by bit as her fingers did their magic. Hinata inspected Naruto-kun's body. It was the closest she's ever been to him shirtless and she was enjoying every second of it. His skin was soft yet hard as she explored his developing muscles, hearing a sigh of pleasure come from him. Looking up, she saw that Naruto was looking relieved and seemed to be enjoying her massage. Happy her friend and developing crush was enjoying it, she began to channel bits of chakra to her fingertips. Ukami. Naruto cursed the feeling of Hinata's chakra massaging his muscles was too much. Every nerve she touched felt pleasure and warmth as she continued treating his wounds. Opening his eyes, he stared into the most beautiful lavender eyes he's ever seen. Both children's faces were bright red, seeming to get closer every second. But before anything happened, the call of nature came to Naruto as his legs shifted. Hinata-chan? Naruto asked, feeling embarrassed and warm at their close contact. Fluttering her eyes, she looked at him expectantly, her glossy lips replied. Yes, Naruto-kun. Her voice was sweet and enchanting, making Naruto's heart skip a beat. A part of him just wanted to ignore his need to go and let her keep doing what she was going to do. But sadly, his lower body complained as it felt like his bladder was going to burst. I need. Yes. Hinata asked, leaning closer to give her Naruto-kun whatever he wanted. I need to go. He shouted, realizing what he said. Hinata leaned back, freeing him. Shooting up, Naruto ran right to the bathroom, leaving Hinata alone. I was so close. She complained. It was the perfect moment and she let it go. Her fingers went to her lips, imagining what it would feel like to have his lips upon hers. They kissed each other on the cheek a few times as a thank you, but nothing more, and Hinata was looking forward to their first real kiss. In the bathroom, Naruto quickly pulled his pants down, relieving himself of his bladder's contents. He looked down at the shocking sight of the red of his blood mixed into his pee. Ai. His scream echoed throughout the house, and Hinata quickly rushed to his aid. Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Her mouth hung open at her Naruto-kun standing there naked as the day he was born. Blood came from her own nose as she caught sight of his lower bits before promptly passing out. Why couldn't this have happened when we were older? She cursed, knowing that the sight of an older Naruto-kun would be all the sweeter. Naruto's brain shut down at Hinata seeing him in the nude, eyes rolling in the back of his head. He promptly joined his Hinata-chan on the floor. Chapter 6. The clan heir. An orange and green blur jumped across the rooftops of Konoha being chased by black blur that was easily keeping up with the orange blur. Naruto. Get back here now and I'll go easy on you. The black blur shouted as it chased a yellow-haired 9-year-old boy. Come on Shisui, it wasn't me this time. Promise. Naruto shouted, looking back at his pursuer whose Sharingan eyes were active. Yeah, just like you weren't responsible for dyeing the uniforms of the police pink or the stink bomb on the main road. The Uchiha shouted back, a small smirk at the youth's pranks. Got to admit the kid is good. It's no surprise no one has caught him yet. Seeing the yellow and orange blur Naruto became, Shisui couldn't help but think the boy was just like his old man. In his year of pulling pranks, Naruto has not been caught once by any of the Uchiha police, not even the regular forces. Granted, Sushi has never gotten serious, enjoying his little matches of speed with the future Yellow Flash. Hey. Come on, I was only trying to give you guys a new look. Pink is a good color for you. It makes you seem less broody. Grinning at his purser, making him get slightly annoyed. Sneaking into the Uchiha compound was hard, but so worth it he thought, the memory of all the pink Uchiha popping up in his mind. And that was almost made our official color thanks to you. A tick mark appeared as he remembered how many of the clan's women wanted to keep the new look. Thank Kami that there are more males than females in the clan, otherwise I would be stuck in pink right now. The man shivered. The thought of him in a pink suit was just too embarrassing. See. At least someone knows the glory of my pranks. Naruto shouted, taunting Shisui further. Just turn yourself in and you'll only get a night in jail. He threatened, though he knew the boy well enough that he would never take the threat. I'm telling you, it wasn't me. The Konoha policeman raised an eyebrow as he sarcastically replied. And I'm sure someone else covered that store in catnip and that someone is also not in class like they should be. Naruto looked away guilty, sweat dripping down his face, realizing he was mostly caught. Damn, should have waited until after the academy. As Naruto had this thought, a black figure appeared in front of him. He crashed into the figure and brought the chase to an end as it grabbed his shoulder. Naruto looked up at his captor to see a white weasel mask. Weasel, long time no see. Naruto smiled at the young Anbu, who only gave the boy a curious look. Up to trouble again, Naruto? The masked man asked. Naruto faked being innocent. Well, you know, somebody gets pranked and I'm instantly the #1 suspect. It's just not fair, I tell you. Naruto's arms shot up in exaggeration. Unfortunately, the Anbu wasn't going to buy it and gripped the boy's shoulder tighter. Fine, I give. I'll come quietly. Head bowed, the Anbu didn't notice the smirk on the boy's face as he quickly did hand signs. In a puff of smoke Naruto disappeared and standing before Anbu was someone else. Itachi Mai-kun purred out a seductive voice. The Anbu froze as standing before him was his naked girlfriend, Izumi. The transformation was perfect, down to her slender figure and boatful breast. This second of distraction was enough time as the girl smiled sickly, kicking him in the groin. The Anbu turned as white as stone, unmoving, as the woman turned back into a boy and made his escape. Shisui landed beside Itachi, looking at the man in pity. The masked man's eyes glowed red, 3 tomos spinning into existence, glaring at his best friend. Not a word of this. To anyone. Don't worry. Your secret is safe with me. The Shunshin, body flicker, ninja assured, eyes closed, sweat dripping down his face as he recalled his own embarrassing moment. The brat got me too by changing into Naori-chan. He opened his eyes, 3 of his own tomo in a sea of deep red appeared in each. Let's get him. With that, the two strongest Uchiha disappeared into smokeless Shunshin, chasing their prey. The chase went on for minutes with Naruto using every trick in the book. Weaving through the busy streets of the village to use his extensive knowledge of the village's back alleys. Alas, it was no use against the Uchiha's superior visual, who could track him easily through the crowd and easily kept up with him in a match of speed. Naruto was currently chased by Shisui in one of Konoha's many alleys, preparing to make one of his famous escapes. But Itachi cut off his escape route with Shisui capturing the poor boy. Finally got you. The Uchiha said in victory, but Naruto only smiled as with a flick of his hand, a small ball was thrown into the air. It was small, about Naruto's palm size, but both Uchiha Sharingan could easily spot the object, which cracked in slow motion and a bright light emitted from it. Both Uchihas were defenseless as a bright light blinded them, their Sharingan improved eyesight making it worse. To a normal ninja, it would only be a brief light that blinded them for a second, but due to the Uchiha's close proximity and their eyes, the light hurt worse, blinding them far longer than normal. In the confusion, Shisui let go of Naruto, covering his eyes, trying to block out the light in pain. Using this opportunity, Naruto escaped from the Uchiha's clutches. So long, losers. Taunting them, Naruto made his escape, Shisui growling as he did. However, his sensitive ears picked up the familiar sound of leaf crunching, and the ninja lunged at the sound, assuming it was his prey. His arm quickly grabbed the boy in a headlock, tightening them as both of them fell to the ground. Don't worry Itachi, I got him. No, you don't, you got me Baka. The voice was rough and mature. A far cry from the child's voice his target had. His vision now clearing, Shisui looked down to see a mop of black hair. Oops, sorry Itachi. Quickly letting go, Itachi fell to the floor, his teary red eyes glaring at the blurry form of his best friend. Quickly picking up his mask and getting up, the Anbu spoke in a calm voice. Let's go, he couldn't have gotten far. Itachi ordered and both him and Shisui jumped out of the alley. Not risking using Shunshin when their vision was compromised. After minutes passed, a figure crawled out behind several bins. It was pitch black, looking almost as if it merged into the shadows. As the figure came out, the shadows seemed to recede and yellow hair and blue eyes could finally be seen. His breathing was almost non-existent, his eyes vacant and motionless to the point that without getting a closer look, people would think he was a statue instead of a person. The figure stopped, his eyes taking in his surroundings, and after a few more minutes, a slight sparkle appeared in his blue eyes, slowly getting brighter along with his growing breathing and heartbeat as his presence and chakra slowly came back into existence. Suckers, they should have checked here before going off somewhere else. After years of pranking ninja and running away, Naruto easily mastered the skill of hiding his presence. His stealth and trap-making marks were the only category that he beat his siblings at. But it's not like Kacchan and Tusen care about that. Taking a deep breath, Naruto slowly moved forward, making sure to hide himself and his presence as best he could as he made his way to the academy. Naruto slowly made his way into the classroom, still hiding, hoping to sneak in. About time you got here, Naruto. His sensei's voice growled out. Iruka-sensei, I was just Naruto sweated, cursing how his teacher was able to find him nowadays. Save it and take your seat. I expect you to stay after class and during lunch as well. Iruka orders with authority. The boy was a wonder to him. His stealth skills were so good that when he first had been assigned as his teacher, he snuck in and out without him noticing. Heck, even now, Iruka could only figure out when Naruto was sneaking in or out by keeping an eye on Hinata, whose Byakugan would activate at timely intervals, searching for the blonde boy. I swear, if you only applied yourself more, you could easily be as good as your siblings. Maybe even better. Sighing, their sensei was brought out of his thoughts by an annoyed voice. Really Ani-san, another prank. Grow up and take this seriously already. The boy's Minato stated, annoyed, though at the end her voice changed into a slight plea. Despite what her Kacchan said, their Ani didn't join in training after starting the academy. After getting hurt by her Ani during the exhibition match, and her one's behavior during lessons lead her to the conclusion of why their Kacchan said he wasn't ready. Come on Ani, if you only stop this foolishness, you could start training with Tusen and Kacchan too. Frowning at his Minato, Naruto slowly made his way to his seat. But I am trying Minato. Hinata was glaring at Akamai, appalled at her behavior. How dare you? Naruto-kun has been training really hard, yet all you do is look down on him. Despite their close relationship at first, the more Akamai drifted away from Naruto, the more she also drifted away from his siblings. She was still their friend after all, they were still Naruto's family, but there was a strain among their relationship. When she heard the seat next to her being pulled back, she gave a brilliant smile as her Naruto-kun sat next to her, like always. Menma glared at Naruto. The boy tried to sit next to Hinata-chan many times, but his one-e would either pull him away to sit next to her, or Hinata would wait until the last second and pick a space with an empty chair for Naruto. The day quickly passed with Naruto trying to not fall asleep while he took down some notes. The day now over, he watched as his siblings ran to their parents, who were waiting just outside the gate. The happy family quickly left for home, except Naruto wasn't with them, nor did they question his absence. "Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked, her hand touching his. Naruto smiled at the contact, making him feel a little better. "Naruto-kun, why don't you ask your parents for training again?" Hinata asked. She knew the answer he would give, but she hoped if he asked, his parents might actually do something for once. "No. Akamai and Menma needed more and I'm sure they'll get back to me. Eventually." His voice grew weak at the end, knowing that it was unlikely, but still chose to believe in his family. "But Naruto-kun. It's been ages now and Menma and Akamai are top of the class already. Surely they could spend some time with you now." She hated how his parents kept putting the matter off. But what she hated worse was that Naruto was letting it happen with a smile. Naruto was doing well training with her and her Kachan, but there was a limit on how much Naruto could learn and improve like that. Naruto was easily average in the class, but unlike his siblings and her, he didn't learn a clan style and had yet to develop his own, above the basics taught in the academy. The only things Naruto had going for him were his stealth, trap making, and thanks to her and her Kachan, his chakra control. "Naruto-kun. You need to learn new styles and techniques of your own like everyone else is." She cursed the fact she couldn't teach him the gentle fist, and her Otu-sen got so mad when she actually tried, making Naruto refuse any training that would get her in trouble. Still Akamai and Menma needed more. "Don't worry, I'm sure I'll start training soon." Naruto smiled, but Hinata could easily see it was forced. "Hey Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan." A soft voice came. They saw a woman with short black hair wearing a blue robe coming towards them. "Are you guys ready for your lesson?" The women smiled. "Shizune-sensei." Both children greet each other happily. "You bet we are. What are we going to learn today?" Naruto asked excitedly with a real smile, making the Hyuga girl next to him happy. "Settle down Naruto-kun. I think you're going to enjoy today's lesson a lot." Shizune bent down, getting closer to the boy's level. "Today I'm going to teach you the chakra scalpel." The boy's eyes sparkled with excitement at this. It would be one of the first real things he would be learning in ages. "Now I'm only going to teach you how to do it with a finger at first, but if you do well, I'll start showing you how to make a bigger one, okay?" Naruto nodded excitedly. This would be one of the only he had with real combat potential. Shizune led her students away, remembering when the medical training program was first implemented. Flashback, Shizune was walking down the corridor, carrying a box full of bandages. With Tsunade's help, they were finally able to get approval for the medical ninja program, and as the Slug Sanin's apprentice, she would be the one teaching the class. "I can't wait." A bright smile spread across her face at the thought of teaching for the first time. Opening the door, she went to the front desk and setting her things down, she introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Shizune Kato, and I'll be your sensei for medical class until you graduate." She looked around, not surprised that all of her students were girls, but then a surprised look came over her, spotting the only boy in her class. "Isn't that Naruto?" She was acquainted with the Hokage's children, but like Tsunade, she wasn't close to Naruto at all, and only heard he was a troublemaker. Shaking her thoughts, she decided to give him the benefit of the doubt and teach her a lesson. "Now I'm going to teach you how to apply bandages first. Now I know this is very basic and you learn this in class, but this is an important tool that could mean the difference between saving a person's life or them bleeding out. Along with this, I will be teaching different ways to tie them based on the injury as well ointments and medicines that you can apply to prevent infection and quick healing of said injury." The class was over quickly, many students doing well. While Shizune was cleaning up, she noticed 2 students were still there. It was Naruto and the Hyuga girl. Approaching, she saw that the boy was untying and then retying the bandages according to the girl's instructions. Smiling at Naruto's hard work, she asked, "Do you want any help?" After that, Naruto and Hinata would stay behind, getting extra training and then helping Shizune clean up as thanks. A year after, the day has been over a year since the medical program started and Shizune was finally going to start teaching the most basic medical, mystical palm technique. The students were eager to learn, though most of them had trouble, mostly because of the dead fish they were using. The only ones who were doing well was a pink-haired girl, who had the control and did it perfectly, but could only hold it for 10 seconds before being completely exhausted afterwards. The best girl by far was Hinata, who not only did it perfectly, but was able to hold it long enough to revive the fish, easily the best in the class. At least she was until she got to Naruto. His control wasn't perfect, but it was close. But the odd thing was that the fish revived quicker than Hinata's. Shizune found this strange, but despite the difference in control, no matter how many times Naruto did it, he would always beat Hinata in reviving the fish. Maybe he's focusing more on the inside of the fish rather than outside, where I can't see it. That theory was what she came up with and thought Naruto was slow in the theory and medicine aspects of the course. He excelled in the actual medical part, easily doing most on his first try, even if they weren't perfect. End of flashback. Shizune walked into the classroom carrying a box. Naruto and Hinata help, each carrying their own boxes. She gave a sickly smile as she turned to the class. Today in class, I'm going to be teaching you the chakra scalpel. The whole class broke out in cheers. However, their sensei's next words put an end to it. Great, it's nice to see you all so enthusiastic about dissections for once. Silence filled the room as the whole class froze. Half the students turned green as Shizune pulled out another dead fish. Despite the fact that her remaining students didn't quit after they learned medical training was a lot grosser than they hoped, they still couldn't quite hold themselves together. Though there were a few exceptions, their sensei smiled, looking towards Hinata and Naruto, who were handing out the samples to all the other students. Okay, now that everyone has a fish. I want you to dissect it like usual. She smiled and a questioning hand suddenly shot up. But sensei, we don't have any tools. Asked Sakura, not understanding how they were supposed to do the task. That's easy. She held up a finger and a blue glow emanated from it before shaping into a blade. Focus your chakra into your finger and then image a blade or better yet, a scalpel, forming out of it. But won't our hands get dirty if we do that? Sakura yelled. She understood that they needed to do this to learn, but she was still far from comfortable getting blood all over her favorite dress. Only if the chakras are not sharp or strong enough. Otherwise it will act like a barrier. When working in the hospital or medical camps, special custom-made gloves are given that are designed to not interfere with your chakra and allow the quick removal of the bloodstained gloves so that you can move on to the next patient. However, on the field, you only have a limited source of them or will be required to provide treatment immediately on site. Because of this, you need to learn to not only shape your chakra into a tool to use, but also as a barrier that prevents bacteria on your hands from infecting the patient. That seemed to satisfy any questions for now as Sakura and several of the more squeamish girls gulped at their fish. Okay, I want you to remove the organs in the exact order I instructed you last time. Marks will be given based on the quality of the cuts and order at which the organs are removed, as well as the condition they are in once removed. With those words, everyone tried focusing chakra to their fingers. Hinata was focusing hard, her Byakugan active as a blue glow emanated from her fingertip and then slowly formed into a scalpel that was a few inches away from her hand. Smiling at her success, she looked down, knowing exactly where to cut and how. Using chakra in this way was no different than the usual gentle fist, only a little more focused with continuous output. Naruto did the same, however there was sweat dripping down his face as he slowly made the blade extend from his fingertip. He managed to do it, but unlike Hinata, who literally had a translucent scalpel equipped with a little curved blade at the end, his blade extended from his fingertip and was as wide as his finger before it shrunk in on itself at the very end. Smiling at Hinata, they both got to work on their fishes. On the other side of the room, Sakura easily managed to form the blade around her finger and started working, but she kept getting splotches of blood on her hand. Shizune watched all the students and was extremely happy at Naruto and Hinata's success. Looks like those two figured out the little trick to it. Turning to Sakura, she saw the splotches of blood all over her hands. I'm a bit disappointed that she didn't figure it out though, when she is one of the smartest in the class, though her control is much better compared to the other students. From where she was, she could see that Sakura's finger was entirely covered and was sharp. But sadly, that wasn't what she was looking for. There was a hidden test that the students needed to figure out. Instead of forming the blade around your finger, you need to focus it to your fingertips and then extend it outward. This method allows you to alter the size and shape of the blade for much more flexibility. But also, it prevents the larger than necessary finger from causing damage by working at a safe distance and preventing bacteria from infecting your patient as you work. This trick also saves chakra and is needed for major operations when using chakra. Despite only 2 students figuring it out, Shizune was more than happy with her class so far. Sakura was already using genin level techniques when using medicine. And the tricks Naruto and Hinata would end up using ranged from chunin to jonin. Very impressive for their age. Most medical ninja don't learn these tricks on their own without years of experience under their belt. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them succeeded Tsunade-sama and I as Konoha leading medics one day. Yep, Konoha's future medics were in good hands with this lot. Both Naruto and Hinata were walking outside their medical class now. The blonde boy glanced to the tree and then the academy gate, hoping to see his own family ready to pick him up. But sadly, that was not the case. Frowning at this, Naruto looked down, trying to hide his face from his best friend. Why do I even bother? They're not going to be there. They never are. Baka-chan. Hinata shouts in surprise. Looking up, Naruto sees a figure in a wheelchair approaching. As she comes closer, the 2 children could see a wheelchair-bound Hitomi being pushed by her maid, Natsu. The poor woman lost the use of her legs during the birth of her second child, the damage too severe for even the legendary Tsunade to fix. Hinata rushed over, worried for her Aka-san. Aka-san, you shouldn't have come. I could have made it home by myself. She worriedly said, knowing her Aka-san was in no condition to pick her up like she used to. But still her Aka-chan persisted, coming to pick her up every day with the aid of her handmaiden. Nonsense Hina-chan, is it so wrong for me to come and pick up my little baby? Hitomi opened her arms, accepting a hug from Hinata. But I'm not a baby anymore, Aka-san. Hinata's head looked up from the leaning place of her Aka-san's bosom to glare at her. Nope. You will always be my little girl, Hina-chan. She told her child, petting Hinata's hair as she did. Knowing there was nothing she could do about her Aka-san, she sent a glare to Natsu, whose lips moved in a silent apology, making it obvious that Hitomi's handmaiden tried to stop her. Looking at Naruto, Hitomi offered. Naruto-kun, would you like us to walk you home? The boy cheered up at seeing his aunt. No. It's my job to escort you home. Naruto and Hitomi smiled as she held out her hand. Well then, would you be a good gentleman and escort us home? Naruto took the offered hand while Hinata took the other as the group started their walk to the Hyuga compound. Naruto held Hitomi's hand tightly. It was rare for him to get a chance to hold his own Kachan's hand, with both of them being occupied by his Amato and Itato. So, despite his insistence that he was just properly escorting a lady home, he really found comfort in holding Hitomi's hand. So, where's the little firecracker today? Naruto asked, wondering where their missing member was. Hitomi's head bowed as she replied, her voice filled with sadness and worry. Hanabi-chan is training with her Otu-san again today and couldn't make it. She was worried. Her husband has been focusing on Hanabi more and more lately, making her grow distant from both her Aka-san and Wani-san. Hinata was having similar concerns, missing her own Amato immensely. After dropping them off at the Hyuga compound, Naruto decided to go home. I'm home. Naruto called as he entered his house, but he didn't know if he could still call it home. Despite his shout having echoed throughout the house, no one answered back with welcome home. Walking into the kitchen, the lights still on, he could see his parents and siblings were sitting down, ready for dinner, hardly noticing he just entered the room as he took his normal seat. Dinner was as usual for the Namikaze household. His Kachan and Two-sen smiled as his siblings talked about today's training and what happened at the academy. It wasn't until after dinner that it all strayed from the norm. I have an announcement to make. His Two-sen announced. His siblings looked at him with expecting eyes while Naruto just rolled his, knowing it wouldn't involve him. Pulling out a piece of paper with a Uzumaki crest on it, he continued. Sensei and I have spoken, and we decided it would be best to give the position of clan heir to either Akamai or Menma. His Two-sen smiled blatantly, Menma as well. How couldn't he? The fact that their Two-sen was going to make one of them a clan heir was the same as acknowledging their abilities to the highest degree. However, three people were not as ecstatic about the announcement. Kushina looked at her husband in shock, not having heard anything about this. Akamai was the same, looking at her Two-sen, not believing what he was saying. But the third and most vocal of the trio voiced his outrage. But I'm a clan heir. Naruto roared across the table, earning a look of shock from his Kachan and Amato, but only displeasure from his Two-sen. Naruto, sit down and I'll explain. Minato ordered, offended that his own son would shout at him in such a manner. What's there to explain? I'm the oldest and that makes me clan heir, it's how it's always been. Normally, Naruto would be calm and put on a fake smile when his Two-sen made a decision. But not this time. Even though he didn't start training in the Uzumaki arts, he still studied and worked hard with Hinata to prepare for the day he would take over their clan. He even doubled his efforts when he found out how similar the position was to that of the Hokage, and that everything he would learn as clan head would also be needed as Hokage. The fact he was a clan heir was the only thing that really made him part of this family and was an important step for his dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto. Minato growled in a warning tone as he started explaining his decision. Menma and Akamai have both worked hard, achieved top of their class, even mastering the Rasengan. They more than earned this and showed that they both have what it takes to do the role. Minato couldn't really blame his son, they never really talked about who would become the heir, and Naruto, as the oldest and firstborn, would have naturally assumed it was him. But being clan heir requires more than just being born into it, but the skill and knowledge to do the job, as well as the willingness to sacrifice yourself for the clan. But Naruto tried to say, but his Two-sen just glared at him, causing him to keep quiet. However, an unlikely person came to his defense. Ani-sen's right. Everyone looked at Akamai, who made her voice heard, shouting her views to her family. Ani-sen is the clan heir and it is his right. We just can't take that away from him. Amato knew her Ani was a lot of things. He was reckless, rude and never took his school work or training seriously. But she still loved him and would never take what belonged to him. Minato only looked sadly at Akamai. Out of the two, he wanted her to take the position. She was smart and mature like him and was clearly the stronger of the two, as well as having the knowledge and manners to take part in politics, the future position held. He just knew the Uzumaki clan would be in good hands with her. But he couldn't force her to take the title if she didn't want it. That only left Menma. If he didn't want it, Minato would have to leave things as they were and let Naruto keep the title. Hoping he would mature with age and grow into it. I really hope he accepts. Naruto's just not fit for a role like this. He's too much like Kushina and wouldn't be able to keep his emotions in check. His thoughts were unnecessary as his youngest child spoke up. Then I'll take it. Menma raised his hands, happy to have one up on his Ani. His Ani always beat him at everything but training, and in the young boy's mind, being a ninja was his thing. The fact that his 2 cent was recognizing his abilities made him happy, making him think that he deserved this. Ani, you have a lot of things already, even Hinata-chan pays more attention to you, but this being a ninja and now clan heir is mine. Another reason he wanted the title was because he knew Hinata was heir to her clan and hoped it would help him get closer to the shy Hyuga he had a crush on since forever. Akamai only looked at her Atauto in shock. You can't be serious. Menma glared back, raising his own voice to his Amato for the first time. And why not? We trained for this, we worked hard, spending countless hours training and getting stronger. Either of us deserve this more than Ani who only messes around. Menma was angry at Amato's response. He always hated that while they were training, his Ani was goofing around with Hinata-chan. Both him and his One-chan both put the effort in, so why shouldn't they reap the benefits? We worked hard for this. I worked really hard. So why can't I enjoy and accept it? Seeing that this discussion was spinning out of control, Minato decided to end it. That's enough. Menma will finalize the agreement tomorrow. For now, think about it. Being a clan heir is a big job and is not one to take on lightly. Minato dismissed the family. Naruto ran off and his Atauto left the room after, smiling, having already decided to accept the title. Only his daughter and wife remained behind for answers. Minato, what was that? How could you make that decision without my consent? Minato looked at his angry wife. As I told you, both Menma and Akamai worked hard. They even mastered the Rasengan a few months ago, which we both agreed to make a clan jutsu. They deserve this. Was Minato's response, hoping to placate his wife. But what about Naruto? His wife asked. He knew it would be hard to convince her, but he needed to. It was obvious that Naruto wasn't suited to the task. Kushina-chan, you know as well as I do that Naruto does nothing but goof around, playing pranks on people or getting into fights. Is that really the attitude we want for a clan heir, especially when the Uzumaki clan is almost extinct? Kushina wavered a bit. She knew all too well what he meant, after all the complaints from his pranks and fights get forwarded to her as his mother. The mentioning of her dying clan was the final nail though, because it made her think about what her clan needed to survive and rebuild itself. Being clan heir was basically deciding the future of the clan. Could Naruto do it? Could he rebuild our clan back to its former glory? Kushina was at a loss. Her instincts as a mother were screaming at her that it was wrong and that Naruto should keep the title. But the clan matriarch side of her was telling her not to let her emotions rule her and consider Minato's proposal. That it was what was good for the clan. See Kushina, you know as well as I do that our clan needs someone strong and dependable to rebuild itself, which both Menma and Akamai are. Kushina could only stay silent as a mother, she wanted no part in it. But as the last Uzumaki, she couldn't outright say that her husband was in the wrong if you thought about the clan's future. Seeing his wife go unusually quiet, he knew he got through to her. Turning to their daughter who was still in the room, he asked. Akamai, are you sure you don't want it? You've earned the right to it as much as Menma has. Akamai only shook her head. Sure, she could see where her parents were coming from, her Ani wasn't the smartest or the most reliable person, but she just couldn't agree to something like this, not to her own Ani. No. I want no part in this. With that, Akamai stormed out herself, knowing she wouldn't be able to keep calm for much longer. Naruto ran, his feet taking him to one of the many training grounds he and Hinata made use of. Leaning on one of the training posts, he collapsed, hugging his knees to himself. What am I supposed to do now? He had his title taken from him, but it was also basically the same as taking his dream away from him. No matter what I do. He would just choose Menma or Akami to be Hokage anyway. He's already given them the clan heir title. Tears started falling, the image of Hinata appearing in his mind, her smiling face as she told him. I just know you will be one day, Naruto-kun, you're the only one who could. She said those words with such sincerity. She truly believed in him. She was truly the only one who was on his side and no one else's. I'm sorry Hinata-chan. I let you down. I just can't do it. Not when everyone just seems to be against me. Before he knew it, the area changed. He now sat on what looked like a lake. A strange glow shone on him. Looking up, he saw the change in scenery, and the source of the light was a bright and beautiful rainbow egg. He stared in wonder at the out-of-this-world sight, and cracks seemed to appear on the object, but there were no sounds of something breaking, they just appeared. The light of the egg where what he thought were creaks turned into illuminating wings made of rainbow feathers. It now looked like an egg with wings, but slowly, the oval shape of the egg morphed, forming a body, then a head, followed by legs. Naruto looked at the beast in awe, too taken by its beauty to be afraid. There, hovering in the air was a reptile, shimmering rainbow scales shaped like ovals covered the beast's whole body, opal-like claws extending from what looked like hands on each of its 4 legs. Its head started gaining detail, and Naruto could see a V-shaped like neck, a flat-like head that got wider the further away it got from the mouth, ending in 2 horns that, like the claws, seemed to be made of opal. The eyes wavered between every color known until they settled on sapphire blue, but within the ocean of blue were dilated pupils that continued to shimmer in different colors. "We meet at last, hatchling. I am the rainbow dragon Iris," the beast said, though there were traces of aurora as its voice rose, the voice itself was almost feminine, soothing as it introduced itself. But at the same time a bunch of different voices could be heard at every word at a lower pitch, as if several people were speaking at the same time. Naruto and the dragon stared at each other. A meeting that would change his life forever. The mythical beast's wings stretched out as it hovered in the air, bathing the whole world in its divine-like light as it gazed at its new child. Chapter 7. The final straw. A year later, it was the end of the academy day and unlike most days, this was one of the rare days where Shizune couldn't do her lesson. Since their medical class was cancelled, both decided to go to their training spot. Both children were walking through the academy gates when an all-too-familiar shout pierced their ears. "Hinata-chan." Looking to the source, neither were surprised to see Menma running towards them waving his hand in the air. Ignoring his Ani-san completely, Menma only addressed Hinata. "Since you don't have medical class today, why don't we hang out together just like old times?" Menma asked, hope sparkling in his eyes. Despite being clan heir, the amount of time he got to spend with Hinata-chan was lacking and instead taken up by more training to prepare him for the role. However, this didn't discourage him because thanks to him accompanying his two-san to all clan-related business meetings, he was able to get some much quality time with Hinata-chan alone away from his Ani. Naruto glared at his Itato, a sweltering anger swelling in his heart. Sure, he always found it annoying how his Itato always jazzed after Hinata, but lately he just couldn't help the anger he felt every time the boy approached. "Back off already, Hinata-chan is mine." "Wait. What?" Confused at his own thoughts, Naruto could see Tusan and Jiraiya standing a ways away talking to his Amato. Jiraiya glanced towards Menma and Hinata with a smile on his lips. "We do have some training planned, but if the boy makes headway with that girl, then it's worth skipping just this once. Looks like my tips to the boy are finally going to come in handy." A perverted grin made its way on his face, imaging the future inspiration his student and the Hyuga would provide. "Oh yes, you chose my student well. That Hyuga is going to be one hell of a looker when she's older." The perverted sage thought, eyeing the already well-developed girl. "Hiro-sanin." Ruptured his eardrums. With a slight shiver, he turned to his other student who was clicking her fists maliciously. "Remember what Kachan and I talked about, no perverted thoughts at all around Menma." Akamai growled, causing the man to gulp. Kushina made good use of Akamai being a girl who would report all perverted actions back to her, then help dish out punishment. The girl's red hair was standing up a bit, just like her Kachan's did when enraged. Back with Menma, Hinata only rolled her eyes as she stated her usual response to the boy's plea. "Sorry, but I already made plans." "Sorry, Menma." She told him. It was true, she did have plans, but she was far from sorry. Naruto was the only boy she could ever see, and she was completely oblivious to Menma's attempts to earn her affection. Turning, Menma glared at his Ani, knowing that his crush's said plans were with him. Naruto ended up glaring back. He used to be more tolerable to Menma, but after the last year and the fact he kept bothering his Hinata-chan, Naruto had enough with going easy on his sibling. "Menma, let's go." Their two-san called and Menma walked over to join him. Not turned down again, Itato. Akamai started with a smile, knowing all too well of Itato's long-held crush. She was happy and thought they would make a good pair, even though his confidence had improved, her Itato would always be the shy little kid that followed her and their Ani-san around. Menma glared at her, not liking the statement. "Don't worry, I'm sure you'll get your chance, just keep at it and she'll be sure to say yes one day." Akamai encouraged me. Menma grew a bit sad at this though. "And when will that be?" "I've been trying for years to get her attention, but nothing seems to work." Akamai put a hand on Itato's shoulder to soothe him. A smile broke on Menma's face after seeing Wani-chan's support. "I suppose she really does live up to her name, she's like a shining light that makes a sunny place so close, yet so far, but you can still feel the warmth and kindness she generates." Akamai just laughed, unable to hold it after Itato's attempt at being poetic. "Man, you really have it bad for her, don't you?" Okami said between giggles. Glaring at her, Menma declared. Just laugh it up, someday I'll reach that sunny place, and then Hinata-chan will be my shining light. His words only caused Akami to laugh harder. Jiraiya was scribbling down notes as she did. Keep it up kid, this is pure gold. Girls will just eat this mushy stuff up. As Jiraiya wrote down on his notepad, his instincts kicked in as he finished the final word and alarm balls went off in his head. Looking at Minato, he saw an equally stunned look. Both adults looked at each other, realizing that they both had the same thought as that word brought up a certain phrase. Their union will bring new hope or despair if the child loses his light, darkness awaits those who took their beloved away. The mention of that one word changed everything and made them both think. Menma is the child of prophecy. Naruto looked at his siblings and Tusan walking along happily, a stab of jealousy and sadness enveloped his heart. But as soon as it arrived it was chased away by a warmth that enveloped his hand. Turning, he saw Hinata giving him her lovely smile. Man, she's beautiful. Too engrossed in his best friend, he didn't even question his thoughts. To him, Hinata was truly the only beautiful girl there was for him. She stayed by his side, protected and supported him. She was truly his sunny place. A sanctuary to the darkness that haunts him, that only her loving light could chase away. Both turned to the direction of their usual training ground, their hands touched and then jumped away, almost as if a jolt went through them at the contact before they eased closer, eventually taking the other's hand with their own. Once they got to the training ground, Naruto smiled at Hinata before closing his eyes, digging deep down. Quickly making the ram, snake and tiger seals. Bunshin no jutsu. Clone jutsu. A poof smoke appeared, but as the seconds ticked by, instead of a clone of Naruto, hovering in the air was an ethereal dragon. Her appearance was see-through and not even a tenth of her natural size. Iris looked at the boy she knew for a year now. Iris-sensei. Both children greeted with smiles, causing the small dragon to bow in acknowledgement. Greetings, little ones. She greeted me with a smile. With the seal preventing her from leaving the boy's body, this form was the only way she could exist within the outside world at the moment and it was great to be able to leave, even if she couldn't feel the wind as she flew in the sky. What are we going to be doing today, sensei? Hinata and Naruto asked, excited for training. Hinata, I want you to go over to the river and practice what you've been taught while I review Naruto's jutsu. You've made amazing progress on your own style already, but you still have a habit of slipping into the original Jukin, gentle fist. Hinata nodded, walking over to the river as she left the dragon and her container alone. Hatchling, it has been a year and you have been able to pick up my style quickly thanks to your previous training in chakra. Today will determine whether or not you are worthy to truly call yourself my kin. Naruto nodded, already knowing what it meant, thinking back to when he first met the mythical beast a year ago. Flashback, Naruto watched the dragon in awe. It was completely quiet in the mindscape for about 3 seconds. Cool. What are you? Where are we? What are you doing here? Iris was taken aback by the sudden barrage of questions as the awe the boy felt only a moment ago vanished and the silence came to an end as the non-stop questions started. Iris recoiled slightly, unable to answer with the boy's constant chattering. Deep within her mind, a deep voice laughed out. Ha, he's just like Natsu. Remnants of the fire dragon persona laughed. The Milo persona of the other dragon sweat dropped, knowing just how hard to handle the fire dragon's son was and made a silent promise to keep the dragon from influencing the boy as much as possible. There was nothing wrong with his teaching methods, but Natsu's blunt and excited personality was hard to deal with at times, and there was no telling what the outcome would be if their newest hatchling were to take after him. The thought of a hyperactive fire dragon made the other dragons shiver. Sorry Igneal, but it would be much better if he turned out like Wendy, Gagiel, Sting and Rogue. The many dragons all agreed. They knew their children weren't perfect, but still, compared to the fire dragon's son, they had much more restraint and they were all silently thankful that Grandini was the primary person. If anyone could curb the hyperactive child, it would be her. Coming back to reality, Iris let out a roar. Enough. As the boy went quiet, she quickly began answering his questions before he could start again. As I said, I am Iris the Rainbow Dragon and this is your mindscape. Seeing the boy's confused look, she answered again. We are inside your head. A look of understanding showed that keeping it simple was best for the boy. But why are we here? Before the boy could get going on more questions, she quickly answered. You know about the Kyuubi and your siblings, don't you? He nodded, remembering it was the primary reason his family favored his siblings. What you don't know however, is that due to a twist of fate, I was sealed inside you. As the words sunk in, a smile grew on his lips. That's great. That means Tusan and Kachan will start training me too, I can't wait to tell them. His siblings got more training because of the Kyuubi, so it was only right that he would get the same treatment if he had Iris sealed in him. We will do no such thing. The dragon roared with a bit of anger, scaring Naruto. She observed the child's treatment and being a collective of several adoptive parents, she was not happy one bit about how his parents treated him. She had no idea what they would do if they found out, but this boy clearly needed the guidance she was going to give, and she couldn't let his so-called parents stop it. Naruto's joyful face instantly went gloomy. He thought that if his parents no longer had the excuse to train only his sibling, then everything would go back to normal. A childish dream, but even after all they did, a part of him did want his family back the way it was when he was little. An image of baby Naruto playing with his siblings as his Kachan and Tusan watched. But those days were long gone, and he was coming to accept that now. Seeing the depressed boy, Iris knew the perfect thing to cheer him up. With a smile breaking on her scaly lips, she told him. Don't not worry about hatchlings, because I will train you personally into a dragon slayer. Naruto's eyes sparkled. The name sounded so cool and he couldn't wait to get started. But then he had a thought, remembering the definition of slayer. Wait, why the hell do you want me to kill you? The shout echoed through the room as Iris went on to explain about the art. End of flashback. After Iris explained to him about the world she came from, the great war between humans and dragons that led to the creation of dragon slaying arts, and how even though he was being taught it, he didn't necessarily have to slay dragons. Looking at his sensei's eyes in determination, Naruto was ready to begin. With a roar acting like a signal, Naruto charged forward at full speed. Vernier, arms, armor. The green aura of chakra covered Naruto. Settling down, the aura became smaller, but still covered his entire body, leaving a slight green glow coming from the boy. His speed increased to 3 times its normal amount, speeding through the trees, zigzagging and jumping out of the way of all obstacles. In less than 30 seconds, he spotted the first target set by Iris and Hinata the other day. Changing direction, a whirlwind of wind chakra gathered around his right hand. Heading straight for the target, a human-shaped doll, he shouts. Sky Dragon's crushing fang. Right before Naruto was about to collide with the doll, he slashed his hand forward. At first, nothing happened, as if he just passed it at the last second. Without stopping, he immediately went after the next target. It was only then that the doll was slashed into millions of bits by a whirlwind. Naruto, following his nose, jumped down a nearby cliff. At the bottom were 3 more targets, but as he fell, a piece tripwire broke. From all directions, kunai and shuriken assaulted the boy. But even so, when a large number of weapons approached, he only smiled. Shifting all his weight to one side, he turned in midair and said. Sky Dragon's Claw. With a spiral of kicks from each leg, 2 strikes of wind plowed down to the targets, taking the weapons with them. As they crashed down to the targets, metal, wood and earth went everywhere. Landing safely out of harm's reach, Naruto just kept going, leaving a crater from his last technique. It wasn't long that he found himself surrounded by multiple targets, and unlike the ones before, they all had weapons that fired at him as soon as he came into the clearing. Sky Dragon's Wing Attack. With 2 whirlwinds forming on each arm, Naruto slammed them into the ground, sending all the targets and weapons aimed at him flying as a tornado appeared. Straight ahead, he could see the last target and with only seconds remaining, he went for it. However, as he ran, a spike of wood shot out the ground, aimed right to his midsection. With no time to stop, Naruto took a deep breath and the spike collided into his stomach. The green aura of his defensive aura protected him, preventing the spike from penetrating his skin and clothes. Cheeks puffed, he roared. Roar of the Sky Dragon. Breathing a tornado from his mouth, both the target and spike in front of him, along with anything else to cross the wind of destruction's path was obliterated. Smiling at the mass destruction left in his wake, he turned to the left where Iris's projection was flying in. Good job. 1 minute on the dot, you pass. Looking at his sensei, Naruto gave a brief bow as she congratulated him. As of today, I officially recognize you as a Sky Dragon Slayer. Yada. Naruto jumped up in joy. For the first time, his hard work was finally being recognized. Iris smiled, the effects of chakra on Dragon Slayer magic had a big boost in its effects and now Naruto could finally match even his siblings. However, this was only the beginning. Naruto still had far more to learn. Minato and Jiraiya were sitting in the Hokage's office. There's no doubt about it, Menma is the child of prophecy. Jiraiya told his student. Minato only looked at his sensei. It's been years since the prophecy came up and Minato was hoping it would never come up again. Can we be sure? Just saying a few words doesn't prove it. Minato reasoned. They prepared the siblings the best they could, but they still had no idea what the future would hold. Minato, he said the words exactly how they were in the prophecy. We need to make measures to ensure Menma doesn't go down the wrong path. The Toad Sage urged. What do you mean by that? Blue eyes looked into his sensei's serious black ones. You know very well. If the child of prophecy loses his love, ruin awaits him and the world will follow, darkness awaits those who take his beloved away. Minato knew those were bits and pieces taken from the prophecy, having read it many times over the years to ensure they didn't misinterpret it. We have to make sure Menma doesn't lose his light to anyone. With those words, Minato knew what his sensei was suggesting. Menma does like Hinata a lot, so I'm sure he would be okay with it, and he and Hinata have been friends since they were children. But those thoughts, Minato got the paperwork ready. Later that day, Hinata was in her room, it was evening now. She had just gotten back from celebrating Naruto becoming a full-fledged dragon slayer. When she first found out, she was surprised, but after seeing the leaps and bounds in her Naruto-kun's progress, this was the best thing and just what he needed to keep pace with everyone. Originally Naruto-kun was supposed to keep it a secret, but the boy couldn't keep it from his best friend. Iris and the collective of dragons she was made of knew this all too well and made bets on how long and how he would tell his chosen mate about them. Surprisingly, it was Igneel who got it right in less than a day, with Naruto looking into Hinata's face and spilling the beans out of sheer guilt. The fire dragon didn't shut up for weeks about earning the right to train the boy in his art after he got his sky dragon slaying to an acceptable level. Hinata looked to the side, a sewing kit and what looked like a scarf on the side. She's been working on it for months now, intending to give it to him as congratulations for passing his test today and confessing her love, but it still wasn't finished. Oh, Naruto-kun. As her thoughts drifted to the young boy who stole her heart so many years back, a knock came from the door. Hinata, come to the meeting room now and put something nice on. Her Otu-sama ordered. Getting up, Hinata asked. Why, who's here now Otu-sama? But no reply came, showing that Otu-sama left already. Begrudgingly, Hinata made her way to her wardrobe, knowing that an important visitor was here. Please don't let it be another marriage proposal. As she grew older, more and more people started noticing the beauty Hinata was becoming and were eager to claim the Hyuga heiress for themselves. Using a plain yellow kimono and doing up her hair into two buns, she looked into the mirror. Her already developed breasts could be seen, making her blush. She would much rather wear something less revealing. Unless Naruto-kun likes it. She prayed that whatever proposal Otu-sama got this time would end up like all the rest. There was only one man she wanted to be with when she grew up. Hinata arrived only for Otu-sama to give her a glare. These past few years, he only seemed to get colder and colder to her no matter what she did. Couldn't you have put on a better kimono than that? His voice was rough, a hint of anger showing, and though his face still kept the normal Hyuga-like mask, it didn't stop the annoyance that showed in his eyes. This sent alarm bells going off in her head, those words meant that her Otu-sama was actually hoping for her to catch the eye of someone. No, please. No. Naruto-kun. Her thoughts turned to worry as she slowly approached the meeting room with her Otu-sama, hoping beyond hope this was not what she thought it was. When the door opened, she prepared for the worst, but spotting the familiar mop of blonde hair of her beloved, she calmed down. This allowed her to further inspect the person waiting, seeing he was wearing the Hokage robes. So many thoughts went through her head, but the one that stood out the most put a big smile on her face. If he's here, then the one I'm going to marry is. Hope restored, Hinata quickly went to take her seat with a smile on her face. The thought of being engaged to her beloved Naruto-kun brought butterflies to her stomach. I don't believe it, I'm going to be engaged to Naruto-kun. Oh thank you Kami-sama. She shouted with joy internally, heart racing at the thought of her greatest wish coming true. It was only until she was almost to her seat did she notice there was another person in the room sitting on the other side to the Hokage. But what met her vision wasn't bright blonde that filled her heart with warmth and joy, but instead a dangerous crimson that turned her hope to dread. Hi Hinata-chan. Menma greeted, taking in the sight of her kimono. It wasn't the first time he saw her dressed in one, but every time took his breath away. Blushing the same color as his hair, he compliments his love. Wow. Why you look beautiful. Hinata couldn't think. All the happiness that she had before thinking of her future with her Naruto-kun vanished and was replaced by something else entirely. She broke out in a cold sweat, her instincts telling her to flee as she asked one question. Why the hell is he here despite her question, she already knew there was only one reason why he would be here with his 2 cents. Her own Otu-sama made it clear. This can't be. Tears started welling up. No one could see because she kept her head bowed, taking her seat, not even acknowledging Menma. All she could do was pray that this meeting wasn't for what she thought it was. The Ashi took his seat next to him directly facing the Hokage. About your early proposal, we of the Hyuga clan would be honored if my daughter and your son were to wed. Hearing those words, Hinata looked at her Otu-sama in fear, small tears ready to fall. She was about to speak up to say she didn't want to, that if she had to marry someone, then let be Naruto-kun. But reading his daughter's thoughts, he spoke again, stopping her words in their tracks. This works out well for the clan, especially since we have been debating on naming the Hanabi clan heir. Those words shocked Hinata. It was the first time that she heard of it, but it was the Hokage who questioned it first. You mean Hinata isn't going to be a clan heir any longer? The Hokage's voice was questioning, wanting to know the reason for the decision. Hiashi remained calm and answered without missing a beat. Yes, it has been observed over recent years that Hanabi has shown more promise than her sister. However, having Hinata step down would require her to be sealed. With all the words said, Hinata easily understood what her Otu-sama was saying. This arrangement was for the good of the clan, and second that she would be sealed if she didn't agree. The Hokage's blue orbs filled with slight anger at those remarks. But doesn't your clan forbid the sealing of females belonging to the main branch? Those words brought hope to Hinata, making her think her Otu-sama was bluffing about the seal. Normally yes, but since Hinata was heir and directly of my blood, the elders find it prudent to have her sealed so as to prevent any conflict of succession from occurring. His voice was calm though. He, himself, was against his daughter being sealed, but the elders thought otherwise. Demanding it to happen if Hanabi were to become heir, not wanting Hinata to attempt to put an end to their traditions if she ever became clan head. This proposal was the best solution to the problem, with the added bonus of the Hyuga gaining favor of the Hokage and incorporating the chakra of both the Uzumaki and Kyuubi chakra into their bloodline. In return for accepting, Hinata will gain immunity from the seal, giving up her title to her sister in order to marry the Uzumaki clan heir. Minato, having made a similar decision with his own son, understood how complicated succession was, and hearing about the threat of the seal Hinata was under only strengthened his resolve. Alright Hyuga-sama, we accept. Hopefully the joining of our two clans will lead to a propitious future. Menma gave the biggest smile of his life. Isn't this great Hinata? We're going to get married. Hinata only put on a fake smile, not saying anything, not risking Otu-sama's anger if she spoke up. What was that Otu-sama? I don't want to marry Menma. Hinata shouted with all her might at her Otu-sama. You are and will marry him. Hiashi growled, scaring him. Our clan has never been close to any of the previous Hokage. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and many of the villagers already agree that Menma is likely to become Hokage someday. In that case, why not Naruto-kun? He's also the son of the Hokage and would fit the role just as well. Hinata cried, tears streaming down her face. The Kyuubi chakra possessed by Menma will only increase the effects of the Uzumaki and Hyuga bloodlines merging, and he is also the future head of the Uzumaki clan. I doubt the elders would be as willing to let the matter of you being sealed go if you were to wed anyone else. Her Otu-sama wasn't listening, he already decided that this was for the best. This is for the good of yourself and the clan. If you don't go through with it, you will be sealed. Hinata only looked down, tears falling freely as she became trapped by her clan. But I love Naruto-kun. She cried, the image of her first only love moving further and further away from her. You are forbidden from seeing him as much as you have. You are engaged and it would not do good for the clan's reputation if you were to be caught messing around with another man besides your future husband. Hiashi ordered, leaving him crying alone. Hinata collapsed, tears falling, she didn't want this. She didn't want to marry someone she didn't love. Hinata fled the compound in tears, not caring where she was going, desperate to escape. Hey! Someone cried as she bumped into them. As Hinata fell, strong arms encased her, filling her with a sense of protection and warmth. Looking up, her teary eyes crossed with the blue orbs of her beloved, concern etched across his face. Hinata-chan, what's wrong? Naruto asked frantically, hugging his friend closer. Hinata only sniffled, gripping Naruto's shirt tighter, burying her face into him, trying to make all the pain and sadness go away. Anger flared in Naruto's eyes as he held on to his Hinata tighter, pulling her closer to him, making it seem that the two were almost the same person. When I find the person who made my Hinata-hime cry, I'm going to. His enraged eyes flashed red for a second before returning to normal. A gentle look swapped out the rage as he stared down at his beloved. Now was not the time to go on the rampage and kick someone's ass. No, that came later. At the moment, his light needed him. He would chase away her sadness and worries just like she did for him so many times before. Bringing his hand up, he began to soothingly stroke her hair and then went all the way down the side of her back. Hinata shivered slightly at the attention, burning up as she felt the all too familiar feeling of the love she had for the boy in front of her. Minutes went by, but to the boy and girl who were embracing, it felt so much longer. Finally, Hinata looked up at the blue orb she fell in love with so many years ago. Naruto-kun. She whispered, puffy red eyes full of fear and seeking comfort. Don't worry Hinata-hime, whatever's wrong, I'll fix it and then beat up the one responsible. Naruto assured, his azure eyes sparkling with affection and resolve to protect his home. I'm. She couldn't spit it out. Her mouth went dry, no sound coming out. She tried looking away, but Naruto's hand came up, turning her back to him before it rested on her cheek, supporting her head up and offering comfort. I'm being forced to marry. She cried, her head instantly taking its place back on Naruto's chest as she cried more. Naruto froze as the words processed. He unconsciously gripped Hinata harder, hurting her a bit, but she didn't care. She needed him. Fear roused up in Naruto. His heart felt like it was going to break in two, his own heart and breath started racing as a cold sweat started. Hinata-chan's getting married. No. She can't get married, she just can't. Even as he said it though, he couldn't come up with a reason why it hurt him so much. It was only when his shocked face looked at his pained friend that he realized why. The ache he felt as she saw her cry. The memory of her smile brings him so much warmth and comfort. She can't because I. Lifting up Hinata's head, his eyes shone in anger, determination and most importantly love. I won't let you get married. I'll stop it, no matter what, I'll stop it. He shouted, his words bringing so much happiness to the young girl, but she couldn't let herself bring her hopes up. You can't, Naruto-kun. Hinata whispered, more tears falling. She wanted his words to be true. She didn't want to marry anyone but her Naruto-kun, but she knew this was one battle Naruto wouldn't be able to win. But I will. You don't want it and there's no way I'm going to lose you. He shouted and with every word Hinata felt her hope growing, wanting him to do it. To save her like the prince she always saw him as. But you can't. It was barely a whisper, but Naruto clearly heard it. And why not? He shouted, his own anger being loudly heard. Hinata struggled free, shouting with all her strength the words that tore Naruto apart. Because the one I'm marrying is Menma. The ones responsible are your family. I can't ask you to fight them. Every word felt like a betrayal to Naruto. The ones taking his home away were his own flesh and blood. He would have to choose between his own family or his beloved Hinata-chan. Looking down at the sobbing mess of the girl that's been his light for so many years, there was no contest. Bringing her into another hug, he forced her to look him in the eyes. I don't care if it's my family. Or the whole fucking village or even the whole world. His shout sounded throughout the night, the heat of his determination lighting a flame within her. For so many years, you've stayed by my side. You've never abandoned or hurt me, while everyone else did. My world became darker and darker. Yet you remained. His eyes shone, sparkling in the dark light conveying his feelings to the girl before him. You're my light, my joy, my very reason for living. You are my only sunny place within this dark world. And I. The boy cried himself, realizing just how important the girl before him was, just how much he needed her. I love you. With those words, Naruto kissed her. Warmth spread from her lips throughout her very being, chasing away all the anguish she felt moments ago, replacing it with unbridled joy and love. The new couple stood there for eternity, reveling in their mutual love for one another. As they both pulled away, they were at peace. The tears of sadness were now tears of joy. I love you. I don't care if they are my family. I won't forgive anyone who tries to take my sunny place from me. I'll protect you like you always have me, I'll be your light for once. Hinata smiled brightly, filling Naruto with warmth. She was truly his sunny place as it looked like it was daytime in the middle of the night with how bright her radiance was. Hinata was delighted. Her love confessed to her. Her beloved Naruto-kun felt the same way about her that she did him. Her voice carrying with it her joy and love, she finally confessed her own feelings. Naruto-kun. I love you too. I always have and always will. I don't want to live in a world without you. Hinata hugged Naruto for dear life. Don't worry, you won't have to. We'll make it through this together, like we always have. As Naruto hugged her back and leaned his head on her shoulder, an image of a photo appeared in his mind. It was a family photo of when he was 3. His Two-san held him on his shoulders, while both his Two-san and his Ka-chan held Menma and Akami in their respective arms. All had a smile on their faces and were a happy family that loved each other dearly and was Naruto's hope that they returned to those days once more. But tears started to appear, spreading around the image until all the family was caught by them. Then one by one, they broke apart, leaving the smiling blonde boy alone. Soon, he too faded and what replaced the photo was a new one. One with the same boy, with a smile and an arm wrapped around the back of a blue-haired girl, who was blushing. I won't forgive them. Not anymore. I won't let them take my Hinata-hime away from me. No matter what. This is the final straw. But those thoughts, Naruto took in his beloved scent. His ex-family will know his wrath for trying to take his light away from him. Forgiveness won't be given so easily this time. They will pay for the pain they caused both him and his love. Chapter 8. A declaration. It was a warm day in Konoha. Naruto smiled, watching the rising sun from the Hokage monument, his beloved Hime by his side. Yes, today was the day it all changed. The sun came over the village wall, its light chasing away the shade of night. I'm not sure this was a good idea for Naruto-kun. His beloved spoke up, her pale lavender eyes conveying concern. Don't sweat it, we agreed to do our plan today. Grabbing her hands gently in his, he gazed at the moon-like eyes he loved so much. I will save you no matter what. I promise and I will never go back to my world because. His voice was cut off as she gently whispered. Because that's our ninja way. Hinata finished the words of the one she loved. Those words were only one of the few of many things she loves about him. Just as the rays of the sun reached them, the two shared a kiss, embracing each other, their handiwork behind them was revealed for all the villagers to see. In the Namikaze household, everyone was just about waking up. Akamai went in to wake her Ani. Jez Ani-san, couldn't you get up early for once, you know what day it is. Opening her Ani's door, she blinked in surprise to find an empty room and a made bed. What the hell? Entering the room, she expected her Ani to try and pop out and surprise her, but she was sorely mistaken. No bloody way. There was just no way Ani-san could have been up before me and Kachan. In all these years, her Ani has always been here waiting for someone to wake him up. It was rare for him to be up before any of them, let alone the first one out of all of them. Akamai wearily approached the window, opening it. I need some air. Taking a deep breath, recovering from the shock of her missing Ani and miraculously making bed for once, she opened her eyes. She blinked once more, her jaw dropping at what she spotted at the Hokage monument. Oh my. Oni-chan, come on, breakfast is ready. Her Itato called, seeing her in their empty one's room, he entered. Hey, what are you looking at? He asked, pushing her aside to see whatever had his Oni-chan's interest. His eyes flashed red at the sight he saw. His hands gripped into the wood of the windowsill, leaving marks, before sprinting down the stairs. Itomi was waking up by herself, clearly seeing her daughter and her boyfriend's work from her garden. A small smile showed up as she took a sip of tea. I'm happy for you too. But the smile quickly faded as she remembered her husband. Flashback 2 years prior. Itachi, what do you think you're doing? Hitomi shouted at her husband, who only looked at her in confusion. Hitomi-chan, I don't understand what's wrong. The clan head showed his softer side to his loving wife. Hitomi went an unlikely red at her husband's response. You're what's wrong. You know how Hinata-chan feels about Naruto, yet you're forcing them apart. Itachi sighed, he was expecting his wife to come to him about this, but it didn't stop him from dreading it. Hitomi, it's for the best, Hinata. It's not for the best. Hinata is happy with Naruto and you're taking that away from her. His wife cut him off, only thinking about her daughter's happiness. Hinata is marrying the son of Hokage. Her future is all but secure and the clan elders won't be able to touch her. Itachi stated his point. How couldn't his wife not see that this was what was best for their daughter? Then why not Naruto-kun? He's the Hokage's son too. If you need to marry Hinata off to someone, it should have been the child of the Hokage that she loves. His wife argued, pointing out the holes in his statement. The elders would never let it go if Hinata were to marry someone who was not heir to another clan and would have demanded she be sealed. This was what was best for her. Itachi growled, but Hitomi didn't budge, glaring up at him from her wheelchair. What's best for her, or best for the clan and yourself? If you really thought that way, you should have kept her as clan heir. It was obvious her husband was doing this for himself and the clan, rather than for their daughter. I couldn't. You know well that Hinata isn't suited to be heiress. Hanabi is already surpassing her in strength and is more fit for being the future head. Their daughter was never one suited to lead in the eyes of the elders, she was too soft to meet their demands. Not suited. More like not manipulated by you and those bastard elders. Just because Hinata is kind doesn't make her not fit to lead. You and the elders just don't want to lose control over the branch house. Her shout echoed and hit the right strings. Itachi recoiled, knowing it was true, but still denied it. That's not the case. The Hyuga need a strong leader, and Hanabi has already shown talent, surpassing most others, especially her sister. The clan head regained his composure, looking down at his wife with slight sadness. Wrong. You and the rest of the main branch just feel threatened because Niji is surpassing you all, despite being from the branch house. Hitomi wasn't blind. It was obvious that the reason her husband started focusing on Hanabi was to ensure that the main house stayed in power, despite the rising star that appeared in the branch house. Niji is certainly capable. He was cut off again by his wife. Then just make him a clan heir instead of dragging our daughters into this pointless competition between the two houses. She pleads, already knowing how much Hiashi and his Ashi were torn apart because of the division between the branches. There was no reason to repeat past mistakes over and over again. I can't do that. It would mean accepting a branch member is stronger than us and would destroy our traditions. Hiashi shouted. Whether his wife liked it or not, he was clan head and had a duty to uphold the clan's traditions, no matter how wrong he, himself, felt they were personally. What good are traditions when it is tearing our family apart? Be warned, Hiashi, keep this up and we will end up losing our daughter. Hinata is much stronger than you or this clan can see, and it is that strength that this clan needs the most. With that, Hitomi left her husband debating on her words, hoping beyond hope that her love would see and fix his wrongs. Then flashback, despite her words and hopes, her husband didn't reconsider and kept pushing the engagement forward. Her words had the opposite effect and instead caused Hiashi to focus more on Hanabi's training, leading to her youngest being consumed by their clan's traditions as well. Taking another sip of her tea, Hitomi smiled once more. The show Hinata and Naruto put on proved to her that all hope wasn't lost. In the Uchiha compound, Itachi was just waking up to do his rounds as Anbu captain, removing the sheets, his bare skin exposed. "Morning, Itachi-kun," murmured a sleepy voice, coming from beside him. Leaning down to kiss the bare skin of his girlfriend, he greets her back. "Morning, Izumi-chan." did I wake you?" he asked with concern. Izumi's hand reached to him and used his weight to pull her up until she hugged him. "I'm fine, I'm used to it, but I am a bit sore from last night, you troublesome weasel." Itachi blushed as Izumi nuzzled his neck. Sorry." Itachi gulped, trying not to focus on the extra weight and soft skin he feels on his chest. "It's alright, got another tough day in Anbu?" she asked, leaning on Itachi, tempting him to have a repeat of the previous night. "It should hopefully be easy. I'm taking someone else's patrol so I can have most of the day free and celebrate Sasuke's graduation." Izumi perked up from this, her sleepiness fading slightly as she finally gave her boyfriend room to breathe. "That's right, Sasuke-kun is graduating today, I'll make sure to go over there in the afternoon as well." Giving her a quick kiss on the lips, Itachi got up and started collecting his scattered equipment around their shared apartment. However, one look out the window caused him to drop all of it as he slapped himself. Just one easy day, is that really asking too much? Seeing her boyfriend's slight despair, Izumi got up to see what the commotion was about. Sniff. Sniff. Turning to his side to see his now crying girlfriend who comments on the villagers' #1 troublemaker's latest prank. "Itachi-kun isn't that just adorable?" Izumi squeals, unable to stop her tears. Itachi couldn't help the small smile, but also couldn't help but feel something was off. Getting a sudden shiver, Itachi looks at his lovely girlfriend who was now cutely pouting and glaring at him. "Itachi, why don't you ever do anything like that for me?" Izumi accused the look of anger in her eyes, causing Itachi to back away. "Now Izumi-chan, defiling the Hokage monument is a serious crime. I just couldn't do it." His words were stopped as Izumi picked up his katana, which thanks to him dropping earlier, was now unsheathed. "You don't love me enough," she cried, throwing the sword at him, but thanks to quick ninja reflexes, Itachi easily evaded it, only to turn to see Izumi ready to throw more things at him. "Come back here," was shouted after a few minutes of running around the room to gather up his equipment before making his escape out the window, a small fireball following behind him. Landing on a nearby pole, a jealous voice greeted him. "Looks like someone had fun last night." Shisui spoke up on the neighboring lamppost next to Itachi. He glared at Itachi with tired eyes. "Not a word." Itachi threatened before proceeding to get dressed and put on his gear. "You know, when I recommended you move into the apartment next to mine, I never thought I would lose sleep because of it." The elder Uchiha commented as Itachi put the last of his gear on. "Sorry, we just can't help it." Itachi responded to him, offering a sincere apology. "Look on the bright side, once you finally get together with Nori, you can get us back." The devilish grin spread across Shisui's face. "Don't worry, I plan on it. But it looks like you got it tough this morning," he told him, looking at his friend's haggard appearance. "Yeah, thanks to Naruto. She got angry that I've never done anything like that for her." Itachi blew his hair back into place, finally gaining his usual neat appearance. "Can't blame her though. I mean it is adorable what he did, no wonder girls are jealous of it." Both Shisui and Itachi shared a smile. "Yeah, I know, but Izumi-chan's been acting weird lately. From what I heard last night, it can't be all bad." The body flicking nin cut in only for his friend to glare at him. "Sorry, my bad." Turning back to the matter at hand and the mess they are going to have to sort out today. Damn Naruto, couldn't have taken his graduation day easy for once. He runs us ragged almost every day already. True, but it's not all bad. I mean it is fun and good morning exercise chasing him down. Itachi glared at the elder Uchiha. "Shisui, you've never got tricked into going into the hot springs when your Kachan and girlfriend were in there." Itachi glared, explaining the situation to both was hell and neither let him off the hook for weeks. "No, I just ended up there when Kushina and Tsunade-sama were both there." The Uchiha shivered as his life flashed before his eyes. "I swear I shunshined out of there at top speed, but when I came out the other side, I had several broken ribs and was coughing up blood before I even knew what happened. She's a monster." The Uchiha's eyes showed something most veteran ninja never show, true fear. He was the second fastest ninja in the village, and even then, the slug Sannin was able to get him mid-teleportation, which should have been impossible. Both Uchiha looked down in anguish. "That's it." Itachi activated his Sharingan, spotting Naruto and Hinata making out on the Hokage monument, infuriating him further. "No more playing around, the boy's going to pay for all he put us through over the years." Shisui joined him, glaring at the blonde boy in the distance as he agreed. "I hate to say it, but I really think this will be his last chance to graduate. We can't let him win this time, let's go all out." With those words, they disappeared after their prey to finish the little contest of cat and mouse they played over the years. On top the Hokage monument was written in big words made of wood and painted purple. "Naruto Uzumaki is dating Hinata Hyuga, the most beautiful girl in the world." Naruto held his home in his arms, waiting for the Anbu to eventually arrive. Spotting the first wave coming around, he quickly kissed Hinata on the lips one last time. "Right. I'll see you later, just like we planned." He winked, causing the girl to blush. Naruto approached the edge before letting himself fall. Hinata only shook her head at her boyfriend's antics. She then giggled, remembering all the cinnamon rolls Naruto got to appease her after scaring her to death the first time. A swarm of Anbu rushed past her after the boy followed him over the edge. One appeared right next to her. "I will escort you to the academy, Hyuga-sama." Hinata just nodded, then Anbu put a hand on her shoulder before the two disappeared. Naruto was plummeting to his death from the great Hokage monument, but no fear showed, instead, he just calmly took in the feeling of the wind rushing as he fell. Opening his eyes, he saw the swarm of Anbu scaling down the cliff on foot, he smirked. The Anbu had to scale the great cliffside with chakra, since even for a ninja, plummeting non-stop from that height was a death sentence. With no buildings or good footing to use to slow their own descent, they would never catch up to him. Naruto looked right down seeing the approaching ground, but still did nothing. The Anbu, seeing the boy wasn't doing anything to save his life, quickly let their chakra go, plummeting after him at the same speed, some even going faster since they pushed themselves off the cliff. This was exactly what Naruto wanted. Only a few seconds from the ground, Naruto flipped right when the Anbu were about to reach him. All the Anbu quickly pulled out wired kunai and threw them to slow their fall. Naruto channeled wind chakra to his feet and with a swirl of wind coming from them, he propelled himself up, slowing his descent. For a few seconds, Naruto levitated off the ground before releasing his feet touching the floor, as if he jumped only a few inches off the ground, rather than plummeting to his death from the top of the mountain. Not even a second went by after he was only solid land before he dashed off into town. Behind him, two of the Anbu that were closest to him both landed roughly, not having set their wires quickly enough in their attempt to save the boy. Another three landed, doing rolls to get rid of their extra momentum before pursuing the boy once more. The chase now leads into town, Naruto beginning the next step of his plan to get rid of the remaining pursuers. Looking back, he checked the number that was left. 3. I was expecting only 2 to make it after that fall, but they wouldn't be Anbu if I could lose them all so easily. Good thing I planned to lose at least 6 if it came down to it. With a smirk, Naruto passed a corner where his next trap was waiting. Losing sight of his target, the lead Anbu sped up, quickly turning the corner. "Ah!" was all he heard as something hard hit him in the face, knocking him down. "You bloody Anbu. What the hell are you doing popping out on an old lady? You could have given me a heart attack." His attacker was an old lady in her 60s, breathing heavily from the scare she just had, but from the anger she was showing she was more than fine. Madam Initi didn't get to finish as the old lady hit him over the head with her bag, not stopping at all. "How rude. You almost send a lady to her death and don't even have the nerve to apologize." The Anbu was defenseless from the women's attacks, his job forcing him to take the abuse from a civilian. His comrade passed by, his eyes looking and pleading with them to help, but both looked his way, each raising an arm making a cross gesture, praying for their defeated friend. His friend only screamed as he was left at the mercy of the old woman. His comrades would help, but when chasing the troublemaking blonde, it was every man for themselves. The next one got lost as Naruto slipped under a passing fruit cart, causing the second Anbu to crash, ending up with his head inside a melon. Naruto looked at his last pursuer. "You're going to regret being the last one, sorry buddy." A wooden fence in front of him, Naruto jumped over it and Anbu followed. Steam clouded his vision, but catching the sight of blonde hair, the Anbu grabbed a figure hidden by steam. His arms wrapped around him, only to meet the softest sensation he's ever known. Squeezing the soft objects twice, he knew there was only one thing that could cause the sensation. Looking up at his obviously too tall target, only now he was seeing the blonde hair that he thought was the boy's actually went all the way down the person's back. The head attached to it turned showing a beautiful face with hazel brown eyes and a purple diamond on. Oh shit. Anbu's final thought was that a punch with overwhelming destructive force sent him flying, destroying the wooden wall. He just jumped over and into the surrounding wood. "You bloody pervert, how dare you touch me? I'm going to kill you." When the smoke from the crash site cleared, not only did she see the knocked out Anbu with a bloody cracked mask, but also a man wearing a red and green kimono laying under the Anbu. "Jiraiya." She screamed before the sound of bones breaking, followed by the screams of 2 unfortunate men filled the area. In a non-destroyed part of the wall pattern seemed to fall down, showing a snickering blonde. "Servers, you right perverts." He snickered before quietly making his escape from the enraged woman. Naruto was heading to the academy by rooftop, unknown to him however, crimson red eyes watched from above. The figure on one of the many lamp posts that covered the village reached into his shuriken pouch. 3 in each hand, throwing them at the unsuspecting boy. Naruto's ears suddenly picked up a sound of splitting air, quickly jumping to the side, he narrowly avoided a set of 6 shuriken. Where did they come from? Naruto looked at the direction they came from, but right when his attention was diverted to the steel weapons, they changed direction right after him. Quickly noticing the change, Naruto did a backflip, once again narrowly missing the shuriken. As the shuriken passed, he noticed wires attached to each. Shit, shuriken curved once more, but instead of going after Naruto, they collided with each other. The force sent them all different directions, causing the wires to tangle around the boy. With one final pull from the controller, all the wires tightened around Naruto, bringing him to a stop. His prey caught the figure and jumped down from his vantage point. "Itachi, I should have known," Naruto said, glaring at the approaching Uchiha. "You really did it now, defiling the Hokage monument. What were you thinking?" Naruto just rolled his eyes. "What? I was just announcing how lucky I was to have such an amazing girlfriend to the whole village." Itachi's crimson glare bore into the troublemaker. "Be that as it may, you're caught now and won't be getting away." Naruto just glared back, challenging the claim, before smiling. "Looks like Izumi gave you a lot of trouble this morning." Itachi blushed, trying and failing to hide it as he glared at the blonde. His rush changing didn't allow him time to fully make himself presentable. Naruto closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. Itachi saw chakra gathering around him swelling. A torrent of wind blew from the boy, blasting the wires back, allowing him to escape. That's wind chakra. When did he learn advanced nature transformation like that? Itachi then watched the boy rush into the village alleys declaring, "Did you really think that would hold me? So long, loser." Itachi smiled as the boy left. The chase was becoming more fun. "Looks like we weren't the only one holding back, but I expected you to escape the wires." Not even seconds passed after the blonde boy entered the alley did a blast of fire come from all entrances. But that, Itachi disappeared in a shunshin. When Naruto entered the alley, Shisui's Sharingan eyes caught the familiar sight of Naruto's chakra. Smirking that everything was going exactly as planned, he made several hand signs. He took a deep breath. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Exhaling, a ball of fire filled the alley, bursting forth right at the runaway fugitive. Fire released, Shisui looked into the air waiting for Itachi to knock the boy to him. By flooding the alley, Naruto would have no choice but to go up to escape in time. Itachi would knock him over to Shisui. When that happened, he would then trap him in a. It was perfect. Itachi appeared above the alley, watching the sea of flames below him for signs of the blonde boy making his escape from the burning sea. Something's not right, Naruto should have escaped by now. While he watched the skies, Shisui's Sharingan caught something out of the corner of his vision. Looking back at the ally, he sees Naruto bursting through the wall of flame, fist back ready to punch his lights out. Impossible. Even if the flames were diffused to not injure him too badly, he shouldn't have been able to just walk through them. As he had the thought, Naruto's cocked back fist slammed into him, knocking down. But thanks to the Sharingan, a poof of smoke replaced the falling Shisui, and a log appeared in his place. Ignoring it, Naruto ran into the next alleyway across the street. Shit. Crazy fool. Shisui disappeared. From the skies, Itachi thought the same as he noticed Naruto running into another alley, disappearing like Shisui. He followed. Idiots. Like fire would work on me. Naruto looked down to see his orange hoodie was slain, having been burnt in several places. Sadly, thy hoodie did not make it. Shall it rest in peace after his years of service to the destruction-prone blonde boy? Ira said, causing Naruto to glare. I resent that. He shouted, giving a quick prayer for his hoodie before continuing. You should have worn the new ninja clothes Hinata and I prepared for you. Ira spoke up. They wouldn't have burnt up. How the hell was I supposed to know they would use bloody fire against me? Naruto yelled, sweat falling down his brow. Sure, he could have just eaten it, but he was saving that surprise for much later. Iris didn't get a chance to respond as the two Uchiha appeared at both the front and back, cornering him once more. Damn guys, aren't you a bit too serious today? Naruto whined, a little pissed at having his favorite hoodie destroyed again. Both Uchiha just gave him the crimson glare of doom their clan was famous for. You've had enough mercy from us, come quietly and you won't get hurt. Shisui smirked from the front. Oh really, you haven't captured me in all these years. I don't intend that to change now. At Naruto's taunt, all three began to move, Shisui from the front, Itachi from the back. Naruto pulled out a small red sphere from his pouch, white markings adorning its surface. Throwing the sphere in the air, Itachi and Shisui didn't stop, instead their Sharingan deactivated the instant they saw the ball, and their arms came up to shield their eyes. They learned their lesson long ago, but sadly it looks like Naruto didn't, or so it seemed. The white markings on the sphere glowed before exploding in a cloud of red smoke. Ah fuck. Shisui shouted as his lungs and eyes burned from the smoke. What is this? Itachi, coughing, was the one who answered. Cough. Pepper spray. His eyes teary and lungs on fire, he could barely speak. The cloud blocking side of their target, they didn't see the veil of wind that kept the cloud of red smoke away from Naruto. Focusing wind chakra to his feet, Naruto leapt into the air, shooting right out the cloud, leaving a hole that was quickly filled. They really should have known better than to underestimate and believe Naruto would try the same thing twice. Itachi and Shisui quickly exited the alley, the enclosed space made it perfect for gas attacks, the wind taking much longer to disperse the cloud. Their eyes red, they looked back at the cloud noticing the absence of Naruto. Damn. He got away again. Shisui hit the wall in anger, coughing up more of the red smoke still trapped in his throat. Don't worry, we know where he's going and can cut him off. Both Uchiha quickly left for the academy, hoping to capture the boy. High in the skies of Konoha, Naruto laid down, the force of his jump carrying him hundreds of meters in the air. He took a deep breath, feeling the wind resulting in his clothes and hair, right before his momentum was going to wear off and force him to plummet to the ground by gravity's force, he whispered. Vernier. The green glow formed a sphere, causing him to hover there before falling slowly. Turning his sights to the academy, he slowly glided through the sky as if flying. As Naruto entered his classroom, all eyes turned to him in question at his latest prank. Hey, that's him. Why did he do it? I thought Menma was Hinata's fiancé. The most prominent question though, was that last one. It was no secret that the Hyuga and Namikaze heirs were betrothed. Most people wrote it off as a prank, knowing of the blonde boy's knack for causing trouble. Naruto's eyes quickly locate his loved pale lavender ones. She was surrounded by the other girls, all questioning her on details. Some of the girls actually found it kind of cute and would have totally approved if Hinata and Menma weren't already considered an item. Before he could even take his seat though, Naruto was tackled to the wall. The whole class started to watch one pissed off Menma pinning his Ani to the wall. Naruto's blue eyes crossed with slitted crimson eyes as he stared into his Itato's rage-filled eyes. What the hell was that? Menma growled, his features feral, showing the Kyuubi's chakra affecting him. Naruto just smirked, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. What? Didn't you read the sign? Hinata Haim and I are a couple. He taunted, his own blue eyes turning slitted, yet remaining the same color. It was as if two beasts were facing off with one another, trying to prove their dominance. Don't fuck with me. Menma shouted, reeling back his fist to punch his Ani. Hinata gasped, preparing to go to her beloved's aid, but stopped as someone else grabbed Menma's fist. That's enough. Cool down, both of you. Akamai pushed both brothers apart, standing in between them as a mediator. Menma barely held himself back. It was only the next words his one-e said that actually helped him keep control. Menma. Remember what Tusan and Kachan said about staying calm, get your chakra under control. Akamai ordered. Menma's eyes turned back to their violet color, but the slitted pupils remained, signs that his anger was far from over. Turning to her Ani, Akamai scolded him just the same. Ani-san, that is going overboard. This is too much, you know that Menma and Hinata are betrothed. This is too much for one of your stupid pranks. Akamai was angry at one's insensitive act when he knew full well the siblings' relationship with a young Hyuga. It wasn't a prank. I meant every word of what that sign said. The seriousness in his tone caused Akamai and everyone else who knew of Naruto's easygoing nature to take a step back, not expecting his answer to sound so serious. All their classmates, except for a few who were focused on Naruto, all turned to Hinata, their gaze asking the question if what the blonde boy said was true. Before Menma could blow up at the statement, the same Anbu that escorted Hinata showed up behind Naruto, putting his hand on the boy's shoulder, he ordered. Namikaze-san, please take a seat. Naruto could feel the annoyance the Anbu tried to hide behind his mask. Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto went to take his seat next to his love. Didn't you see the sign? It's Uzumaki-san now. Akamai was curious about this and actually started questioning the removal of their last name from the sign he put up. Did he do it for Kachan, since she's the only Uzumaki left? What does he hope to get by doing that? The thought quickly went away though as her attention was pulled back to the boy and Anbu. Putting a hand on the boy's shoulder, Anbu pulled him back. And where do you think you're going? He questioned the boy, who just glared at the stupid question. I'm going to take my seat next to my beautiful girlfriend as always. Menma was about to fly off the handle, but Akamai kept a firm grip on the boy. Ani-san, that was going too far. Was she worried? Menma was ready to fly into a rage, and she could only control him to a certain point. No, you're not. Just take the seat right there and don't cause trouble. He pointed to the nearest seat. Naruto just raised an eyebrow and continued onward to his original destination. Where do you think the Anbu was cut off as white seals glowed above him and pink paint splattered down on him like a waterfall? Iruka, who was silently letting the trouble diffuse itself, just face-palmed. Naruto, I told you to stop rigging the classroom already. Naruto just shrugged, not stopping as he responded. Don't worry Iruka-sensei, I'll make sure to clean up all my traps by the end of the day. Iruka just sighed at the boy's comment. There shouldn't be traps in the first place. Though a part of him was happy that after today, he wouldn't need to worry about entering a classroom full of traps ready to go off every morning. The Anbu, feeling humiliated and angry at the notorious blonde's actions, was about to grab and force him to obey, but a hand gripping his own shoulder stopped him. Turning, the Anbu was surprised to find his superior and the famous Shisui Uchiha behind him. We'll handle it from here, go and get cleaned up. Knowing of the blonde's own reputation and seeing too the strongest ninja with stinging red eyes and haggard appearances was enough to convince him to disappear. Any boy that could cause two of the village's most feared and powerful ninja into that state just wasn't worth the paycheck he would be getting at the end of the month. About the time you got here. What took you? Naruto taunted, smirking even while Itachi threw a kunai at the boy that just scrapped the boy's already burned clothing. Both Uchiha gave the boy the best glare they could with their watery red eyes and noses, both asking themselves how the blonde beat them there at the speed they went at. Sasuke was dumbfounded at his Nai-san and friend's ragged and humiliating appearance. He heard the older boy complain about the younger blonde more than enough times, but in all the stories, his Nai-san told he never once took them seriously, always thinking they were exaggerated. But seeing his role model and Shisui look like they went through hell caused the young Uchiha to glare at the blonde. Not believing that two of his clan's strongest couldn't handle the little brat. The eldest Namikaze was a far cry from his younger siblings, he wasn't bad and was still in the upper echelon of the class, but compared to the red-haired siblings who matched the Uchiha as top of the class, the blonde just wasn't noteworthy until today. As soon as Naruto took his seat, much to the ire of his Itato, Hinata started fussing over his ruined clothes. Don't worry, just the damn Uchiha's fire techniques. Naruto smiled and Hinata calmed down, knowing of the boy's immunity to fire. Alright class, first up for your graduation test will be a written assignment, followed by target practice and a ninjutsu test. All of these will determine whether you become a ninja or not today. With those words, Iruka started handing out papers for the written part of the exams. You may begin. With those words, all students took a pen and started filling in the answers. After the hour for the writing test was over, it was over to the target practice field. The final test was more of a tradition than a necessity. Taijutsu, Jinjutsu and other areas were scored based on performance all year round, starting from their final 3 years at the academy. Since those scores were based solely on performance, it was possible to pass even if you failed the so-called final exam, as long as you proved you had the skills needed to be a ninja in other fields. Naruto wasn't worried. His written scores weren't the best, but thanks to Hinata, he would easily pass. Besides Jinjutsu, all his other fields would easily put him in the higher ranks in the graduation year, and the last 2 tests were easy passes for him too. Iruka started calling all students up one at a time. Naruto didn't pay attention to anyone else besides his Hisamoto and Hinata. Akamai easily hit all targets, throwing the 10 kunai simultaneously, scoring a 10 out of 10 mark easily, earning the highest grade in the class right off the bat. Hinata Hyuga. Hinata went up to the target range with silver kunai. She hit all 10 of the targets dead on by throwing her kunai one at a time. Nice Hinata-chan. Way to go Hinata-hime. Both Menma and Naruto cheered before glaring at one another. When Hinata came back to Naruto's side, he hugged the blushing girl, causing her to overheat as his Itato watched. Menma Uzumaki Namikaze was the only other person Naruto bothered to watch. Menma smirked at Naruto. Watch this Hinata-chan, this one's for you. Naruto fists clenched, but he remained calm. Menma pulled all 10 kunai between his fingers and threw them all at the same time like his one he did. 9 targets hit the dead center, but the final one missed a bullseye by a few inches. Menma glared at his failure, though his grade was still the highest, easily earning him second place at the moment. The fact that he missed one when trying to show off to his future wife was unacceptable. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Iruka called and Naruto didn't move. When his teacher glared at him, Naruto just pointed to the sign. Didn't you hear, it's just Uzumaki now. Menma grew even more pissed at the reminder of the mocking sign, but Akamai finally started hearing alarm bells at Ani's instance, at not going by Namikaze anymore. I don't care, Naruto. I'm not going to change the order because of a sudden last-minute change to your name. You're up next. Naruto leisurely walked to the target range, throwing his custom silver kunai, a gift from his home one time he scored a 10 out 10 no problem. Everyone, except for Menma, were impressed by the perfect score by the less noticeable Namikaze child. Akamai was the most surprised, not realizing when her Ani became this good. When could Ani do that so easily? Though he didn't use any fancy tricks like his siblings, Naruto's scores easily put him in third place with Hinata. Going up to collect his special kunai, no one noticed that Naruto pulled out his blades that were all embedded in the target all the way to the hilt. Something not anyone else was able to do, only managing to get them to impale the target up to halfway up the blade. The secret was that as Naruto pulled the kunai out, a faint and sharp blue aura could still be seen from the chakra conductive metal they were made of. The second test ended with Sasuke scoring a 10 out of 10 simultaneous hit, just like Akamai. The final results were Akamai Sasuke, first place, Menma second place, Naruto and Hinata third place. The whole class expected Akamai, Sasuke and Menma to score the highest, though they all expected the trio to tie like they always did, but Naruto and Hinata raising through the ranks to third was new and unexpected. Both children were the wallflowers of the group when it came to the academy, no one really noticing them besides the people in the medical classes or Naruto when he did another prank. The two of them scoring so high was something no one expected. Naruto waited for his turn to take the final test, the ninjutsu portion of the exam. The class slowly filtered out one at a time, and he was so bored, his hime being part of the first lot up just made the wait even more unbearable. Looking down at the lower seats, he sees Menma glaring at him. Naruto sticks his tongue out taunting the boy. Menma rises from his seat, only to have his knee push him back down. Naruto chuckled, it was like this the whole time. Glaring, then taunting him only for his Minato to sit him back down. It was funny, but got old very quickly. Akamai Uzumaki Namikaze. Finally Naruto thought, the first sign that his long wait was almost over. Akamai gazed at her two brothers, hoping they would behave while she took the test. Her hopes were unfounded though as seconds after she left the room, Menma went over to Naruto. Naruto just ignored him, paying no mind to his annoying Itato. Hey. Menma growled when he reached the desk. Naruto just ignored him, not in the mood to deal with a spoiled brat. His face twisting in anger, Menma slammed his hand on the desk. Listen to me when I'm talking to you. His anger-filled growl and slam made Naruto look at him. What does my Itato want? Is he scared of the big old test and wants his Ani to comfort him? Naruto taunted as Menma went red in the face. Grabbing Naruto's shirt, he forced his Ani to look him in the eye. Shut up. It wasn't a request, but an order. Naruto showed no fear as he started feeling the Kyuubi's chakra come from his Itato. Or what? Your anger's wasted. Even you should have realized by now that Hinata-chan hasn't and never will have an interest in you. At those words, Menma reeled his fist back, throwing a punch to his son's face, but right at the last second, his name was called, stopping him in his tracks. Menma Uzumaki Namikaze. The instructor called. Reluctantly Menma left, but not before giving Naruto a promise of payback. This isn't over. Naruto watched his Itato leave, his smile quickly turned into a frown, remembering the shy little boy that used to cling to him all the time. Whatever happened to you, Itato? He saw his Minato and Itato playing as children, how Menma wouldn't leave the house without having a death grip on either one of them or their Kachan. Those were the good old days, the days they were a family. No. It's too late to think like that. They had plenty of chances to change things, to fix it, but they did nothing and ignored me. I have no family. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto glared at the instructor who dared call him by that name, his piercing silted eyes shook even the veteran ninja. Naruto rose up, walking slowly, his entire body screaming that he was in a bad mood. That's not my name, it's just Naruto Uzumaki now. Naruto warned as he passed the man. The instructor corrects himself, taking Naruto to the room where the test would begin. Iruka and Mizuki sat there, watching Naruto enter the room, an array of headbands in front of them. The pass and receive your hit I-8 headband, you need to demonstrate the substitution, clone and transformation of jutsu. Iruka stated, Naruto quickly did the hand signs replacing himself with a chair. Next, with hand signs so fast that Iruka could barely see them, 5 Narutos popped up in front of him in smoke. But Iruka said. Naruto was guaranteed to pass anyway, thanks to his overall score. Can we transform into anything? Naruto asked out of the blue. Yes, as long as the jutsu itself is up to standards it could be anything. He was taken aback by the sudden question, and he only hoped the number 1 prankster wouldn't transform into anything outrageous. Shit. I missed my chance to make sure he didn't do that. A pour smoke later, Iruka resigned himself to one last prank, only to be mesmerized as a rainbow light bathed the room and caught sight of a creature no one had ever seen before. Naruto walked out, a sad face showing to all. Hinata rolled her eyes, walking up to the boy. Naruto started to cry and Hinata brought him into a hug. However, at the last second, she swiped something from behind his back with a smile, showing off his now pilfered headband. Aw. Come on, how did you know? The activation of his girlfriend's Byakugan was all he needed to answer that question. I forgot that I saw everything and watched the whole thing. Hinata leaned over, tying Naruto's headband for him. Cool, did you see Iruka and Mizuki faces when I transformed? Priceless. Hinata smiled as well, having received a clear image of it herself. Before the two could make plans to celebrate, a hand appeared on both their shoulders as two Uchiha glared down at them. The next second they vanished, leaving Menma, who just reached where they were, standing and changing direction. He headed to the Hokage tower with a rage-filled face. It didn't take long for them to reach the tower, after all, it was right next to the academy and they were traveling by the fastest Uchiha there was. Itachi disappeared to inform the Hokage, and it wasn't long after they were called into his room. Naruto's blue eyes met the same shade of blue, his two sens eyes, filled with anger and disappointment. Naruto's fists clenched. What right did this man have to look at him in such a way? It was all his fault it got to this point in the first place. Itachi and Shisui were dismissed, and the Hokage looked at his eldest son, silence filling the room. What were you thinking? His 2 cents voice finally broke the silence, and Naruto rolled his eyes as the Hokage began one of his long-winded speeches. Defiling the Hokage monument, a testament to the Hokage's and village's strength, a national monument that every villager takes pride in, wasn't any of that going through your head when you pulled this prank of yours? Minato shouted, his voice filled with annoyance and disappointment that his son would do something so stupid. If it was so important then why wasn't it guarded? It's not like anyone tried to stop me. If anything, you should be thanking me. Imagine if it was an enemy and not a graduating academy student that did it. Minato had no reply for his son's response. It was strangely right and made him think what would have happened if it was an enemy attack and not a prank. He reminded himself to put guards stationed at the monument and expand patrols. It was bad to leave one of the village's most important landmarks, safety bunker and escape route unguarded like that. Despite his son's reasoning though, it didn't mean he was out of trouble, far from it. Even so, you are well aware of the importance of it and shouldn't have embarrassed the whole village like that. Oh please. Pulling Hinata to his side, who blushed into his chest, he continued. As if me declaring my love for my home is anything for the village to be embarrassed about in the first place. Minato only became angrier at his son's easygoing response. It doesn't change the fact that what you did was wrong and humiliated both the Hyuga and our own clan. Hinata is Menma's fiancé. Do you have any idea what rumors are going to spread because of that goddamn sign? Naruto glared at his father, causing him to be taken aback by the anger and rage his eyes contained, all of it for him. She isn't his fiancé by choice. His shout rocked the room, his hold on Hinata increasing to the point that it was hurting her, but she persevered, knowing that he needed to let this out and release all the long overdue feelings he's been bottling up for years. Hinata-chan never had a choice in this and was just forced into it by you and her clan. Minato had no idea about that. Looking at the girl, he saw her holding a worried expression that made Minato think it was something else. So, Naruto likes her too. But we're not just going to break the engagement over a little jealousy. Hinata never once spoke up, knowing her clan, and Otu-sama would never let her get away with it. She was locked into the agreement with no escape, her silence giving Minato the wrong impression. Naruto, this is no excuse. You're just letting your jealousy over Menma make you try and tear them apart. You're a part of this family, act like it. To Minato, he assumed that Hinata, the quiet girl, was just dragged into this by her jealous friend who didn't want to give her up. Menma needs Hinata. He's already shown leaps and bounds in his training since they were engaged. We can't risk the fallback the prophecy spoke of. The way Menma acted since the deal was struck only strengthened their fears that Menma and Hinata were the child of prophecy and his light. Naruto and Hinata were shocked by his words, more so Hinata, who tried to comfort a very silenced Naruto, who had her in a death grip. His blue eyes turned to slits, striking fear into Toussaint's eyes, as a dam finally burst after years of holding back a raging flood. Is that really what you think? The force of the shout alone hurt everyone's ears, but Naruto didn't stop. I've had enough. Under Uzumaki Clan Charter Article 8 Section 1, I hereby challenge Menma for the right to be the heir and for Hinata's hand in marriage. His words shook Minato to his core, gapping like a fish as his son basically declared war on his own Itato. What, you can't? His words fell on deaf ears that long ago stopped hearing and believing the man's words. Yes, I can. You said for me to act like family and I am. As the previous heir, I have every right to take back the title that was taken from me unjustly. This was penance for what his family did. Everything they did to both him and his home was going to be paid fully, no matter what. Do you honestly think I would allow that? For you to fight your own sibling? There was no way Minato was going to let his children fight over something so trivial. Menma needed Hinata more, for the good of the village, their family and the whole bloody world. In his mind, Naruto was being selfish and trying to take back his lost idol when he didn't deserve it. You don't have a choice. It is a part of clan law that any suitable candidate for clan head has the right to challenge the current heir for the title. Interfering would be a misuse of the Hokage's power, which the Shinobi Council won't tolerate, with you interfering with the clan's right to self-govern. It goes against the laws passed down since the founding of the village. He has him there. Even if he used his power and refused the challenge, Naruto had the backing of every other clan except the Hyuga, who would fight for the principle alone to protect their own right to self-govern their clans. The clan politics would never allow the Hokage to undermine the village's laws, even if the clan was his own, and would be seen as an abuse of power. Not to mention that it would damage his reputation if word got out about this. He could talk to Kushina about changing the law, but that takes time, and with Naruto's challenge already invoked, he would still involve the clans in it. Not to mention, his wife would be horrified if she caught wind of this. He had no choice. Taking a deep breath, he finally gave his son his answer. Fine, I accept. But do you honestly believe you can win against Menma? Naruto just smiled. Everything was going according to plan. You'll just have to see that for yourself firsthand. Fine. The stage will be the upcoming Chunin exams in 2 months. Naruto's brow raised in question, expecting to fight Menma face to face right away. How will that work? He questioned, not understanding what his no, the Hokage was trying to pull. Exactly as it is. If you beat Menma in the Chunin exams, you win and the title is yours. If you don't face each other however, it will be whoever gets furthest into the competition. This was the best compromise. This way he could prevent them from fighting. All Menma had to do was win, which he was confident would happen. It was sad, but from what he knew of Naruto's skills, the boy wouldn't be ready for the exams in just 2 months and either not enter or fall out early and learn his lesson. However, the smirk of victory the boy gave was unsettling. It screamed that he had already won. He turned to leave without another word, but the Hokage's voice stopped him. You know this won't affect the contract with the he didn't even get to finish before a smirking Naruto responded with a victorious tone. Don't worry. The contract states that Hinata will marry the clan heir, regardless of who it is. As the words entered Toussaint's mind, the look of surprise on the man's widened eyes only made the win even sweeter. Once Naruto left the room, Minato took his seat, his hands coming to his face as grief over the situation hit him full force. My own family is fighting each other. I need to fix this somehow. But that was impossible. The fact that Naruto said that meant he saw the contract and planned this all along. No. There was no doubt about it, his challenge wasn't on an emotional whim, but a planned-out tactic. Naruto must have been planning this for a while, he did it on the exact day that they became genin and were legally recognized as adults, which is a requirement for the challenge to go through. Not only that, but he knew that the betrothal contract would be affected, which even I forgot to check since I never considered anything could happen to disturb it. Minato started to sweat more and more. He first believed Naruto would never be able to match Menma, but the cunning he just witnessed was something else entirely. The more he thought about it, the more he questioned just how little he knew about his own son. Before he could make any other thoughts, Menma came barging in, slamming the door open. Where is he? It was obvious who he meant, and now Minato would have to explain to his youngest why his Ani wanted to fight him. Hinata watched her love seethe in anger and outrage, everything went according to plan, but neither expected the Hokage to say such cruel words. Putting her hand over his shoulder, she gave him her support. Naruto-kun, don't worry, I'm here. Naruto's own hand came up to grasp hers, and he gave her a heartfelt smile. Thanks, but can you believe that he told me to act like I'm a member of the family when he and the rest of them kicked me out of it a long time ago? He growled the last bit, those hypocritical words just enraged the boy even more. How could his Toussaint expect him to act like a family he wasn't a part of? He did that for years, and all it did was give him heartache and grief. I know, and they will learn that when we show them just who Naruto Uzumaki is at the Chunin exams. Hinata gave Naruto a peck on the lips, only for him to pull her into a full-blown kiss. When they broke apart, Naruto leaned his head on her forehead. I love you, Haim. He whispered softly, staring into her lavender eyes. She was right. Everything will change with the Chunin exams, and his family will realize their mistake. Both continued on to Naruto's home. No, to the place he had to stay for the last 12 years. At least everything went like planned. Just 2 more months and it will all be over. Hinata held Naruto's hand tightly, brightly smiling. Yes, in just 2 months and it would hopefully all be over. When Naruto entered the house, the first thing that greeted him was a shout of, Naruto, what the hell were you thinking? His Kachan screamed. Great, I just got done with the Hokage, and now this. He walked past her while she went on about what he did was wrong, paying no mind to the person he called Kachan in name only. You know Menma and Hinata are engaged, and the Hokage monument is super important, where are you going? Kushina shouts at her son who just ignored while going upstairs. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, come back here, I'm not done talking to you. The screech echoes throughout the house, but still the blonde boy paid no head, knowing all too well the familiar tune of her scolding and the pointlessness of it all. Right when Kushina was going to drag her son down and make him listen to her, she spotted the silent Hyuga behind her. So sorry, Hinata-chan. Sorry for my boy always dragging you into such trouble. I know he can be a handful. A little surprised by her sudden change in attitude, Hinata just responded with what she really thought. No, Naruto-kun isn't a handful. I'm always happy to go along with him. It was true, Hinata would follow her Naruto-kun to the ends of the earth and back, doing so with a smile. Even the darkest days seemed like sunshine as long as she was with him. Giggling at the darling little Hyuga's response, she was thankful that she forgave and ignored all her troublesome son's faults. No need to be so modest. Naruto's always getting into some sort of trouble. I can barely keep up with him, he's just always been so rebellious unlike his siblings. Hinata went wide-eyed at this, glaring at the Kachan of her beloved. It would always be like this. His Kachan would act like a normal mother, only to say something that completely contradicts the Naruto she knows and loves. Naruto-kun isn't like that. She shouts. She knows all too well that Naruto was better than his siblings. He never really acted out, no matter how much his parents neglected him. Besides the occasional prank for good fun and to kill boredom, Naruto never did anything bad. Her shouts land on deaf ears as Kushina just keeps belittling her Naruto-kun with a smile on her face. Now Hinata-chan, you don't need to cover him. Naruto's always causing problems. Just the other week he picked another fight and beat up some children for no good reason. Can you believe that he just misused his training? You would never catch Menma or Akamai doing that. The Lavender Princess felt anger at how the woman in front of her ridiculed her beloved. But more than that, she was confused. She went everywhere with Naruto and didn't see him pick a fight with "You're wrong." Her shout was full of outrage. Her anger boiled so much that even her Byakugan activated. Naruto-kun never started that fight. Those kids did, they were picking on me and he defended me. There was only one fight she knew that fit into the time frame, and her memories of the event were far different from Kushina's. They picked the fight first, but Naruto ignored them until they insulted me. She remembered well that the kids made fun of Naruto. That he wasn't really the Hokage's son, that he was just a random street rat, nothing special about him, unlike his siblings. But despite all their taunts, he did nothing. It was only after one of them made the mistake of calling Hinata a Byakugan monster and was whoring herself to Menma to get in the Hokage's good graces that Naruto lost it and beat them black and blue. Tears started falling down Hinata's face, her voice hoarse from shouting too much. Naruto-kun has never started a fight for himself. He's always taken any abuse because he's that selfless and only ever defends others, but never himself. She knew that Kushina was bad. She knew that she neglected Naruto just as much as his Tusan, but never believed that she was thinking of him as a problem child when her Naruto-kun was nothing of the sort. Just how much do you really know about your son? Because the Naruto-kun I know is far different from the one you do. Kushina stood there, shell-shocked, not even noticing that Naruto passed her with a backpack, leaving Hinata hand in hand. What? But Naruto never said anything like that. He never offered any defense for himself. The thoughts ran through her head, bringing back one phrase Hinata said to the forefront of her mind. He's that selfless and only ever defends others, but never himself. Her eyes widen as a horrifying thought takes root. Could that be the case? Could Naruto never have defended himself from her because he never needed to justify his actions to her? Did her own son not care about how she thought of him? Has she been ignoring his side of the story this whole time? No, that can't be true. I've only ever acted like a mother. Always trying to make sure Naru-chan takes the right path and is disciplined properly. She thought in denial, but the seeds of doubt already took hold, and in the coming months she would come to realize with her own eyes just how much she failed as a mother. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoy it. If you want the next part of this video, turn on that bell notification. Like, subscribe and comment down below. And also check out the others videos I have created and enjoyed it. See you guys next video.